who just thought we were live and started chatting away, and then it's like there's no eye watching us. So it's like, oh no, we're not live. Oh no, we'll turn that music off. Put it on the slowly fade out. Whew. So this is a very impromptu, spontaneous live. It's 11:07. So the first one was set for 10:40. So that's what half an hour to set this up and go live. But this, we've got one for each channel, so we had to set up all the banners again because they're the different colours, aren't they? So if we put this one on and just do the big layout. Oh, there we go, that one with the big layout. Why can't we do this with the big layout? Like this, which we're really happy with. I think that's what one of us wanted originally to do with like tarot readings. And at Christmas, when we wanted to go live, this is the setup that we wanted. And editing, we've not been able to get us back to editing. We've got our Earl Grey and lemon and honey. We read somewhere recently that there's the same healing properties in black tea as there are in green tea, and that we like our milky drinks, but cow's milk isn't good for us. So then we went on to goat's milk, but then we were attempting to go vegan. So then we went on to the Oatly Barista, which is so yummy, and we much prefer that now. But then our thing is that it's about being processed, and there's lots of ingredients in that barista. And so for us, if something's got lots of ingredients in and you can't pronounce it, then actually it's really industrialized. So we thought, oh, that's probably not really good. It's probably better just to have our goat's milk if we're going to have milk. But we're attempting to go vegan, but it's not always good to go vegan quite yet, because the body has to be ready to go vegan. If the body's not ready to go vegan, there's no point. And some of us are ready to go vegan, but other ones of us aren't ready to go vegan, because the different personalities are the different networks in the body. So it's always a sign to us when we're really craving milky drinks, our comfort drinks, that we're in our little uns. But we haven't got any, and we didn't buy any yesterday when we went to get soda water from the shop, which was we don't often go to the shop, and when we do, it's a challenge for the walk, and it's a challenge to not be sucked in by chocolate, sweets, or crepes, which is easier now. It's the meat and the cheese, the processed meat and the cheese and white bread, like a baguette, so we can have a cheese ham sandwich or something. That's the challenge now, but we're getting better at that, because yesterday we just got soda water. So we got to the shop, interacting with people, and had the soda water. And it was another day of just like mad synchronicities yesterday, because at the shop, really randomly, we've never seen it before, there were 2 horses grazing on the grass out the front. And then the book we're reading, and we didn't finish this off the other day, but it's San said about this. We wouldn't have known about this book if it hadn't been for San. And she said about his book coming out, and then with our poem, this is what we started in the live on Joy to Coco for the Lafuma. What's it called? Lucid Lafuma Magic. So it's about getting us lucid in the deeper states. And so she said about that on her channel. I'm not sure if she had said she was reading it or has purchased it because it's going to come out, but I mean, it came out about around summer solstice, about a month ago, or maybe longer, maybe start of June, but it came out about a month ago. And we pre-ordered it when she said it, because of the name Stephen King, because in our poem that we wrote, we said Stephen King, even though we meant Stephen Hawking. And since then, when we wrote the poem in 2017, we've learned, and we're really clarified now, that our conscious mind's perceived mistakes are where the messages are that are important, and we don't always hear them. And so the tarot readers, it's not necessarily the actual reading of the cards that they're doing, it's the little bits that they add in that we learn from, or the bits from the animals that we learn from. And actually, this is Eve has come up for us a lot, Everlong Mystic. So we wrote Eve came up with us today because on the whiteboard here it's numbers this morning. So we've got our Lafruma cards that we did for a short, because we created a short. We'll go into that in a minute. We created a short yesterday of the Lafruma, and we're challenging ourselves to do that every day for a season, and to do shorts on the other channels as well, but also to bring some of the other ideas that we've said or talked about in. And so yesterday, it started off with kitten short, because next door's kitten Worm was in our jungle veg garden. So it started off with that, because I think some of us have been our little ones have been attempting to get that for ages. But as soon as they open the door, he jumps in as if he's going to get food, which he doesn't always get. But he does get Zen's leftovers. And we're training him to stay outside and not come into the house, because this is Zen's, our cat, Zendaya's safe space. And rather than chucking the food away that Zen doesn't eat, we put it out for the other cats. It just makes sense. And so specifically for him, he gets very hyper, very energetic, comes in the house a lot. So we're training him to stay out. And then we've been training him to sit down before eating food. And lately we've been training him to sit down and be quiet before eating the food, and it's working. So there's a video done on that this morning, but I'm not sure when that's going to come out. So our little ones yesterday were really chuffed, because he's got a different place in our veg jungle garden, because we've not been able to do much in our garden for a while. And so the little ones were, I don't know, it's all about jungle yesterday. Jungle Book was the music that went with it. And then the family that walks past, it was the daughter and the father, they were talking about jungle stuff, and then jungle came up somewhere else. So jungle's coming up a lot. So for us, that's bringing up the memories for us of when we did our really intense jungle trek in North Sumatra, from Aceh into Bukit Lawang. Aceh is North Sumatra. I think Aceh is actually a separate country. I don't think it's classed as Sumatra, because Sumatra is one of the northern islands of Indonesia. And this brings us back. Our first time in Indonesia was, we had a 19th birthday in an island off Bali, an island below Bali. So it was 18 to 19, January, February, March time, I think it was, in 1999. So that brings memories back from then. This time we're talking about in the jungle was after we then went back out to Australia, lived in New Zealand, and then did East Asia and came back. So that would have been start of 2007. So we've got start of 1999 and the start of 2007. Jungle kind of comes up in both of them, but this was a specific jungle trek where you actually did the Marijuana's trail, where they kind of take that down through intense jungle. Next time, if we were to do it again, we wouldn't do this one. We'd do the one that would be slower, where you get to see more animals. But before, it's always do the hardest thing, challenge ourselves. And oh boy, was it. And you weren't, if you got injured or something really bad happened, you weren't getting helicoptered out of there. It was 6 days in total. So if you were 3 days in, you had to either go back the way you came for 3 days or continue on for 3 days before you were going to get any help. So, it's pretty extreme. And we always attempt to do jungle treks since then and do challenging ones, but nothing even came close. They were just all completely easy. But I suppose this was with a new company. It was word of mouth, and it was with a new guy starting out, whereas the other ones are all real proper tourist ones. So you wouldn't be able to do what we did in a proper tourist one. But that's not what this talks about. Well, I suppose it is, because this is an impromptu flow mode, in the moment flow state conversation to get out of here, because we're attempting to do our shorts this morning so Eve, we were talking about Eve. So the numbers came up. It's all about numbers today, and Eve came up with the numbers, but we commented on Eve's Cancer yesterday. about sharing too much and about sharing with our wounds, but it was done in written, whereas a few times when she brings up stuff, we've already had a conversation in our audio diary and mirror talk and spoken out loud. So therefore it means it's coming more to the surface. But with hers yesterday, we were starting to comment because she had talked about Basset. And if we take this one off in the, I don't know how we, oh, yeah, if we can do it with my finger. Here, this painting here was done by someone we know that we used to do bookkeeping for. And it's a painting of our higher self. And on one shoulder, we've got Ganesha, and the other shoulder, we've got Bastet. And then there's a little us, and we've got 4 arms. One of our arms is holding a lotus, one's holding a ball of light, like the universe, I think Annie B called it. There's a full moon. It's all blues and greens. Tita Tomomo. Okay, we're going on to the green banner now. We started on the orange banner because we were in our motions and struggling to get stuff out. And we've done the pre-coloured banners. So there we go, we're on green now, but it's going back to bubble. So it's greens and blues. And then the other 2 arms are just like in this kind of position. And I suppose they're actually kind of in the jungle. It was the most amazing trip. But I mean, we were pretty much cold the whole way through. And there's loads of other stuff been coming up about that. Tito Tomomo. Yeah, we watched that. Of the short on how your feet look like hands for people that have been walking barefoot in the jungle for ages because of the way they use their feet. And I suppose that's what's happening now of us, all the different processes we're doing on all our different channels. That's unconventional, and depending what channel we're on, depends which theme of energetics we're on, which due to the Lafruma, I think it was the first Lafruma live, but it could have been the second Lafruma live. Let's do. Audio is not working. It said to use certain layout buttons, but we don't know how to do that. There we go. And then you do this. We just did that a minute ago, didn't we? Petite momo. I don't know why it's not working. Do we have to edit it now here like this? No, we want this one. Let's just do the picture within picture. We'll swap it around. Oh, it's been a bit of learning. Yeah, but they talk on momo. Oh, it's hiding the colours, isn't it? Or let's do this now because there's too much going on in our head. That's why we're doing this live and we can't figure it out, and it's just going to stress us out. So in one of the lives, the colours were separated. So this is the Zanoni Snowflake channel. So that's where we've got the colours. We did our Joy to Coco live. Oh yeah, we've done 2 lives. The box opening, which was the second opening of Pandora's box. The Lucid Lafruma we've done. And then we did the thumbnails of the other 2. So red and yellow is the Lunar Lafruma magic, and this is the Lovable Lafruma magic, the blue and the purples. And that's us on our porch in our self-converted van. This was red and yellow. And what came up for that was when we were at Burning Man Festival and the outfit we were wearing. So that's why that red and yellow picture went up. And they're past pictures of us. And it's the Burning Man symbol taught us so much about ethical living and sustainable living and other things. And we were going down on a bit of a depression then as well. But then it's like the other one of us, because we've been learning that the videos don't match the title sometimes. And we're obviously bringing in colours now. So it's all the different sensory systems, because the alternate personalities are the fragmentation of the body, which relate to the sensory systems. And we're putting ourselves together, which is working because we're getting emotional. And it's crazy, but it's beautiful. But then they were like, yeah, petito por momo. So the title of it is, thank you guys, is Lunar Lafruma Magic. And it's like, well, how does that relate to the moon? And the professional side of things. And the professional side of things, because when one starts a business, there's the values and there's the ethics and there's the mission. And our values and our ethics and our missions are the same for us as it is for nature and humanity and the systems, and being this symbiotic relationship and a heart-led, intuitive, authentic, transparent values, things, no matter what it is. Plus, Luna relates to the moon, because Shintotai is all about the moon living, because with us and our limited energy because of all our different labels and disorders, which will take us back to Eve in a minute because of our wounds and our clarity with that. Well, not Eve, to the Everlong Mystic and her tarot reading and our comment. Eve belongs to the numbers because Eve's the commenter on our lives that likes the numbers. That's why she came up with this. Whereas as Everlong Mystic, the YouTuber that we'll talk about in a minute, the runes, that has helped us gain to our clarity, which will lead on to stuff. Okay, it's getting there. This is what's been going around our heads since yesterday afternoon. And so basically you have full moon parties. So that brings us to the jungle in Indonesia, because the second time round after Indonesia, we went from Bukit Lurang on that boat trip, which was like, oh my God, everyone, you thought you were going to die. You thought the boat was going to literally snap in half. It was so rough. Most of the Westerners went up on deck, but we obviously went into some of our CPTSD state and couldn't move. We went into paralysis and just focused on our breath because we were feeling so sick, which was good in the end because all the Westerners got really sunburnt on top of the feeling sick and thinking they're going to die. It's not funny, but it is. And we met one girl who had literally cycled overland, I think from the UK. Okay, so that's not really accurate because you can't get overland from the UK, but overland cycling, so by boat, not going in the air. She got from the UK by not going in the air, not flying, and she was on her way to Australia, and she'd got all the way to Indonesia, to Thailand, and then she was like, I think I'm flying the next leg. And it's like, you can't do that. You've done so well. You know, you'll be fine. You can't. I don't know what they did in the end, but I so hope they continued going not in the air. But it was like that much of a boat ride. So we didn't get sunburnt, luckily, because that would have really flipped everything on sunstroke and stuff. And then we went to Malaysia, and then we went over to East Asia on the south from Malaysia, because we did Tioman Island, where we did our diving and our 30-meter advanced diving. But then we missed out all your typical islands. I think it's like Koh Phangan, which gets us to the full moon parties. So when you have full moon parties, you dress up, and we love dressing up. So it's linking the moon, the full moon, dressing up, the wild side and the jungle with the tame side, with professional values and ethics, bringing it all together. So a lot of people, they wear masks. We grew up, I suppose, with our father wearing a mask. You put a mask on and you do a certain role depending what position you're in. For us, with the specific childhood traumas we had, and with that conventional way of being in environments, it just added to the dissociative identity disorder. And so for us, I suppose it feels really important to just be true and authentic and from the heart, no matter what it's in. And yes, there are moments where there are more intimate spaces. We're aware of that. But our littles, I suppose, aren't, because everything's imploded out, and we're going through our early childhood years again, being our own healthy mother and our own healthy father, which we never had, and doing it the fun shadow dance of life in a really beautiful, abstract way, which has taken the domesticated, conscious, conventional, conditioned mental minds, conscious mind as an adult when you grow up. And Tito Momo, remember not to point, my darlings. Yeah, Tito Momo, it's challenging, isn't it? Because when we're a child, that's when the subconscious programming happens. But then so there's this common phrase like an onion, where you peel the layers back of an onion when we're going in and getting to the center. Well, it's the opposite from a child. When you're growing up, you're putting those layers back on. So you're starting off with your subconscious programming from your aces up through your first rounds of your tens into your royals. And when you get into your royals and you start on the pages, you're getting into that beginner energy. The beginner energy. The beginner energy. One of the cards that came out this morning, that's come out a bit lately. And breathe and drink and more emotions. And then blank. Parasympathetic nervous system. The body is such an incredible thing, but things completely doesn't do it justice, because we know our body never grew up in its organs, because they're the little ones. but the way the individual consciousness has worked on all it, we've been really connected to our heart and really connected to nature because of our intergenerational consciousness and the aspects of us, I think, which belong to the Snowflake team. Snowflake was birthed when the Native American Indians in America named her. So I think our mother and father went out there at some time before we were born, and they were named Whispering Reed Woman, which we can say now. The rugged man ran round the rugged rock. We used to do speech therapy when we were younger. The rugged man ran round the rugged rock. And the way we speak and use our vowels and use our letters and structure them is all again related into the body, because we are getting a much better with a lot of them, but the L's, double L's together, especially when you get double L's with the SHs, F's and THs were one as well. It all connects into the body with the language. And we love language and etymology, but again, in a way that's quite abstract now, rather than the logical, I suppose, conventional understanding of language and where it stems from. Like maths, 3 for us used to be half of 6. Now it's half of 8. So we sidetracked onto the subconscious and the program. We're not going to go there. We've done that. Everlong Mystic. So we commented on Everlong's Mystic, and we were saying about Basset, because Basset's one of our guides, along with Ganesha, which is independence and play in the jungle. And we started commenting, going, oh yeah, that reminds us of our painting. And when we got that done, how many years that was ago, kind of bring the memories back in. And this whole journey since the seizures has been about creating new memories. And it's really worked, because a lot of stuff comes up now. We did 2 years of doing the out loud reading with the poems and then learning to edit and do the rest of it on the free package. We're on a new package now, which we haven't quite got in there. I've only done it twice on 2 shorts. Calc being the other short, which we don't have up on this one. It's up on the other ones, but we're not. That's about anchored, and we don't want to be anchored now. We anchored ourselves when we were in the Joy to Coco channel live, because we needed to stay anchored in our heart while delving into the depths of the energies. Then I think the next live is going to be Shinto self-empowerment, and that's when we're going to de-anchor and pull the anchors apart. So now here this is a flow state moment, because we're struggling to get stuff out of our head, because as you can see, we go roundabout, upside down, inside out, but it all makes sense in the end. Everlong Mystic. So tarot readers, discernment. Okay. So for the witnessing ones of us, we've had the stories created in the psych ward. We've had to allow each ones of us to just do what they need to do, without judgment, without criticism, how they want to do it, because we're learning how they're learning. We're learning what they know. We're learning, because the protector alters of us will do things and can be really violent. Like, we're in state of survival. We've traveled the world on our own. We grew up with 2 men, one being an older brother, 3.5 years, and both of them would kind of lose their temper. So we learnt to defend ourselves. Not that they used to beat us or anything, but there used to be real full-on scraps with us and our brother. He'd climb the drain pipe to his bedroom, because the only 2 bedrooms with locks on was his bedroom. Like, the only 2 rooms with locks on was his bedroom and our bathroom toilet, not bathroom, it was just a downstairs toilet. And he climbed up the drying pipe to get to us in his bedroom once. And the downstairs toilet ended up with a big hole kicked in it once. And so we learned to defend ourselves. We weren't naturally a violent person. We didn't like it. But when you grow up in that environment, you do. And our father, grew up in the era or the generation where slapping was okay. But I suppose sometimes you don't know your own strength. And when you've got someone that's a lot more fragile, because we had ADS and autism and fibromyalgia, but that wasn't known until our adult years, we're a lot more sensitive. And, we remember being hit on our arse, slapped on our arse, and we then wouldn't be able to sit down because it's completely bruised. So you get your coping mechanisms. And so we know now that if we had to, and we were put in a situation, we could kill. And we didn't want to hurt anyone, and we were losing our minds, so we cut them off, they cut us off, rah-de-rah. But as a child, we flew through a cleaver knife at our brother once, but we did warn him. We told him not to step into the kitchen, or we'd throw this at him. He chose to test us and step into the kitchen, and we threw it at him. We've always been someone to our word, which isn't a laughing matter. Luckily, he dodged it. It just missed his ear, and then he moved his foot, and it just missed his toe. We then sat on the floor in a state of shock. afterwards, and we didn't get grounded for that, but would get grounded for screwing up a piece of paper because we had ulterior motives. So we never had any kind of grounded, stabled, set routines, but yet we would have set routines because that's what our father did to cope, because he was going through his own mental health issues, which one would be after their wife died, but also to do what he did. So we understand it from all angles, and when one understands something from all angles, and we say one, but we mean referring to us, because this might not be the case for everyone, and we're attempting to become impeccable with our word, it gets very challenging to home in on the individual emotions to that personality. But we have to home in on the individual emotions of those personalities, because each one's hold different emotions from different depths and different layers and different eras. And we have to swim through them and experience them. Otherwise, we stay stuck in the human reactive doing state, having to do because we can't relax, and we can't be a human being, and we can't be because of the manifestations of the residual trauma frequencies residing in the body and the connective tissue. And so we started writing this comment on Eve's Everlong Mystics video yesterday, saying that we share too much with our runes, but then we never used to share at all. But then that's the thing, you go from one end of the seesaw to the other end of the seesaw and back again, and that subtle oscillation until you get the vibration really subtle. And then she started talking about sharing the wounds as we were writing about Basset, and all of a sudden it was like, delete the comment, we don't want to do this now. So then we noticed that that's us, the ones of us not wanting to share because of fear of failure, fear of mistakes, fear of being truly authentic and vulnerable, even if it's not in this state. And so this must be us doing our out loud talking about it now, rather than the reverse of us doing it in our private video diary or private audio diary, or I'm sure there's lots of other videos that we've created with stuff like this in before. And it gets challenging to know, because we've grown up our whole life using one voice, even though there's lots of us going on, because we learned as a child that we had to present in a certain way to be accepted and not to have repercussions happen that were not in a harmonic alignment to feeling okay. Hope we're doing okay with our words. And so we're very aware of changing our posture lots here. And so it was like, no, and this is all going on in the head between us now. And then it's like, well, how do we know this isn't just thoughts? Isn't this what people call thoughts when they're going around their head? And it's like, well, yeah, it probably is, because it's on a spectrum. So some people it is just thoughts, it's in the imagination, it's in the mind, it's not manifest yet. The difference for us is it's thoughts manifest into the physical reality. So it isn't just a thought that you can just change like that. And so this is all the self-awareness stuff and all the self-development stuff, which is going to link into Everlong Mystic and her comment in a minute. Oh, you tumbled, bye. Yeah, we are doing one at this, aren't we? Because we always used to do this sidetrack thing, but to be able to keep on top of it in the moment never used to happen. It would just be like, we'd just do it. Other people, if they knew us well enough and were around us, they would be able to keep on top of it. And our truest friends that we loved dearly were ones that were able to do that. There weren't many. And admittedly, I think one of them was like when we were high on drugs. I think it maybe is easier when you're on drugs to keep up with the multidimensional flow state if they've got a good memory as well. So it was like, no, let's post this, because this is us being embarrassed, or this is us feeling shameful and feeling not good enough and not worthy, or can't exactly put the words to it, but it's kind of comes in all those categories. And so we did it and we posted it anyway. And then that's going on between us all. Luckily, though, we know how to reprogram our mind. And years ago, after the seizures and the witnessing ones of us, this became really apparent after the psych ward, and it was one full moon. And we were tired. The body was tired. We've been in adrenaline and not slept properly for months, and then gone into the psych ward, which was the real final severe state of survival. And we just needed and wanted to sleep. The body needed to sleep. and we were really alert. And this cats have taught us this. Cats sleep a lot, but cats sleep a lot because they're so alert. You know, we learn so much from Zendaya. He's our love of our life at the moment. And the recycling came yesterday and the bottles were there, and so he was up there and he was doing his little growl and he was looking, and you know, he used to be such a relaxed kitten. The reason we chose him was he sprawled on his back in this dog's lap, so relaxed, because that's what we needed. We needed a really relaxed kitten, because he was then going to mirror our energies and get a lot of these trauma congested patternings, because that's what happens when we're in dynamics of other living energetic beings. And that was a lot for us to navigate through with Takoda. We felt like Takoda dying was our fault because he was a black cat and black absorbs energy, but it wasn't our fault from a conscious mind perspective. It wasn't even fault, because fault comes into a duality reality conceptualization from what we're feeling and experiencing on this journey we're navigating. And so that was just life. And that's why furry familiars come into our world, because it's exceptionally challenging being an individual soul energetics manifested into a collective vessel of multitude of individual expressions of consciousness, souls, down to each bacteria, because each singular bacteria make up a bacterial community, make up a cell, make up a cellular community, make up the body. It's a living body. And so we put that to the side. So we're watching Zen, we watch cats and their cute way of being on alert. We watch Worm, the kitten that we put the YouTube short video up yesterday, and how he doesn't respond and he doesn't react like that because he's a kitten, he's young. And then the layers get put on. And as the layers get put on, the rigidity can happen from the mundane, routine, habitual patterning in whatever body that's in, the physical body, the mental pattern. And when one's autistic as well, this can really get really rigid. And if it gets too rigid, then you can get hypermobile. And a lot of autistic people do have rigidity and hypermobility, which brings in the Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And we think Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is an umbrella term for so many other things. But we're not even going to go down that avenue, because there's so much that just goes on for us all the time. But we reprogrammed ourselves not for it to go on here. You may want to wish to do this as a lovely little massage we can give to ourselves. And just said, look, can we just have all this go on behind the scenes and just have whatever needs to come out in the conscious awareness when it needs to come out, because we're not going to be able to get through this. And it's when we have those moments of connection and clarity that causes this emotion. And our vision and our colours shifting again. Our jaw starting to go. Let's do tomo pai. So we open our groin into Baddha Konasana. Yeah. Okay, help shift motions and jaw. No, certainly tomo. We crossed it instead of Baddha Konasana. Is that okay? Yeah, die. Oh, we've had a lot to release, haven't we? That's obviously why we're doing this, because it's a live reality healing process. Because we are a smart, intelligent person in many of the intelligences, because our Auntie Ursula, the ex-nun, RIP, taught us this. And we're not sure where we're at. Toi, so mama. We're doing that looking round thing, aren't we? There's a calibration going on. Nyai topo, didana. We like these, yeah. We made these in our garden, didn't we? We grew them. We grew them in a garden. So I think we've got sage here. We trimmed back or pruned back our sage too much. And neither of them are grown again. We had a yellowy leaf one and a purple one. And one of the time we had lemon thyme and another thyme, and we pruned them back too much as well. So whatever's going on with these lives, that well, just this whole journey with the YouTube channels, but more so now with the Lafruma, that we've managed to get onto them and do it since the solstice, because the energies are going down again, because we started the Interaction with Source energy series. We did all of our, in March when it's Pisces and Pisces sun, the external feet, we did all of our Joy to Coco, connecting the external feet to the internal part of the body. So there's real, even though we aren't able to express it outwardly in a fully coherent, professional adult state, there is a logical, academic, professional adult state intention behind everything. And we've got decades of knowledge and experience doing this. And like we said about the reprogramming, there's ones of us that have learned stuff, that know stuff, that then do stuff, apply our knowledge. And when we apply knowledge, embody it, it turns it to wisdom. And so then we remember, and we have these glimpses of remembering that there's ones of us that are choosing this. And then we go into states of chaos. Why? How? Why on earth? And it's because we couldn't keep going how we were going before, because it would have ended in suicide. But we're doing something extremely challenging in a really beautiful, wonderful way. The fun shadow dancing of life through the many dark nights of the many egos. Me, myself, and many eyes and many lives in one life. Many eyes, me, myself, and I, and many eyes and many lives in one life. The eye, oh, we got one. Hello. I don't think anyone's here. No, we just put the comments on to see if anyone's commenting. Well, we know you're here. Hi, but we meant commenting and us being rude. Accidentally. That's better. So we did the Lafruma. We're really chuffed with our Lafruma Oracle card of the day yesterday. And it was actually 48 Leaf Shade that came out, which was the missing one from the girl that commented on Russ's live the other day. And that was influential because Jenny Florence's reading in the morning had 2 full cards in her Crow Tarot pack that both came out. And she didn't even know that there were 2 in there. And it's not meant to have 2 in there. It will be one of those mishaps where another pack's probably missing a full card. Because in our Chakra Tarot that we're using, it's missing a Justice card. And so we noticed it because we tend, as soon as we get the pack, we'll do our autistic focused, make sure they're shuffled properly, spread them out type thing and count them. We used to love counting money and counting a lot. And so, yeah, and do count. So we used to love counting the money. And so that was another way for us to connect, because we just said that we used to be a bookkeeper accountant and now 3's half of 8, not half of 6, and counting can be a struggle. So counting the cards is us helping the neurological pathways in the brain again, and to just to rebuild everything in a way that doesn't lead to the dead ends, doesn't lead to the fascia adhesions, through the DID and the rewiring in the most magical way for us to be able to survive life. But we don't want to survive life, we want to thrive in life. But also through the fascia adhesions due to being dehydrated and not drinking enough liquids, because if we drank liquids, we'd end up having to go to the toilet all the time, and going to the toilet all the time is not acceptable in school. Going to the toilet all the time is not acceptable in jobs and shift work. And so we accommodate, and we accommodate to suit the external environment. We accommodate to suit society. We accommodate and suppress what we need to do in the moment to shift the energies, because that's what we're told to do. And basically we grew up in fear. And so fear as being a healthier emotion to, this is now on rosemary and lavender, I think. Is it just lavender, not rosemary? You think so? Okay, I think it's just lavender. And we know this from our aromatherapy course and from other things, but as Jenny's kept saying a few times lately, which means it's sinking into our little ones now. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, all readers that put in the frequencies, that are answering the questions of the frequencies we put out there, not in words, through our sounding, which we've done on all our videos, which we had to do at the start, through the portal of the World Wide Web, because between us all, we have completely opposite ends of the spectrum of wording, and it gets confusing. So we went to our heart and went to our sounding and knew there were ones of us that knew what frequencies to put out there in pure frequency vibration, in vibratory form, because everything is vibration. And that vibration is only able to be perceived because energy just decides to incarnate in individual souls in a physical vessel that experiences through the 5 physical senses. So gets a subjective and objective experience through the 5 physical senses and a subjective experience through the 5 physical senses. And that's how we manage to minimize, almost eradicate the dissonance and the chaos between all the different information coming in about the law of manifestation and how to manifest and what to do, and how different things, people don't line up with each other and even contradict each other, and how that then leads to everyone having their own expression, everyone having their own experience, everyone having their own truth. Again, terminology we find challenging, because for us truth comes in a pair of truth and lie, and therefore that is duality, reality, language. But we are still developing our language, having a rare dyslexia, processing language disorder. And we learn language better through numbers. So we commented on Eve's Everlong Mystics about sharing our emotions and our wounds too much, because we imploded out, because everything was held in. And then we've had to let that happen, even if it is not the right thing to do, which we've had other people say to us as well. So therefore it's another trigger that's been reaffirmed and revalidated from someone external of us. It's a lot better looking into the camera, I tell you, to focus. You can see us out the corner of the eye, but it's not like... But then there's something about looking at someone directly in the eye and talking. And we learned that one because you have to learn certain skills when you're autistic to be socially acceptable. And we did a lot of this just instinctively, not knowing we've done it. We're only starting to learn now that that's what we've done to survive and cope, without being told that that's what you need to do to be socially accepted and stuff. Which and that's one of the most important things we feel, is to learn how we learn individually. So if you are just one person, that's great. It's a lot easier than learning lots of different people of different ages, of different sex, of different kind of cultural beliefs, because of all our traveling, put into these beginner situations and experiencing all these new ways. But it does really make up for a whole, rounded, balanced, calibrated whole, where you're getting all the chakras coming together to create the wholeness of all that alignment between whatever's going on there. So we wrote that comment. Processing's been going on since then, and then it's like, of course, it takes us back to Project Next, Dean Graziosi, Tony Robbins, Russell Brand, though he's great, Russell Brunson, other self-development workshops we've done, or YouTube, we forget his name, we keep Think Media, the guy that started with all that. And we've done lots of learning, and from all over. So you've got that, you've got the tarot readers and all that, but then you've got you've got all your off-gridders and your land people in Canada. You got all your van people. You know, when we lived in a van, we could have done like so well on YouTube. But of course we didn't like being seen and heard. And we didn't know technology, so we've been learning it. So the thing with what they say, Dean Graziosi, is your message comes from your mess. And so us sharing may be considered oversharing, but whether other people think that or not is irrelevant, because that's their experience, that's their opinion, that's their projection. And what we're learning and how we're learning about us is that when we get defensive, when we justify, when we have an opinion or a strong judgment about anything outside of us, that's our biggest teacher to what's going on inside of us and where to look, because we just want to be compassionate. We don't want to judge others, and we never did judge others. We just judged ourselves. But there's things have been reversed, and now we notice ourselves judging others. But that's only to show us where we need to dance in ourselves to gain this clarity, to gain this awareness. Because when we are able to vocalize it and word it and bring it to the surface through the throat chakra of communication, But for us, words are the least important of the throat chakra and of communication, but they're not the least important to be able to function and live and become successful from a current societal perspective and point of view. And that's what we want to do. We don't want to do it to be successful and get lots of money in the conventional societal way, because if that was the case, we would have done this a lot sooner and would have been capable of doing it a lot sooner in our life, not at 43. Or we'd already started this in our 30s, because our mum committed suicide at 32. We knew we were going down the same path. So we knew how we lived our life in our 30s. We would define how we lived in our 40s onwards. So this has been a real conscious awareness journey for the last 13 years. There's a 13 number, the 13 moon cycles. And since the seizures, 7 years October, and since the psych ward 3.5 or 3.3, 3 and third, 3 years, 4 months. And what we are doing is practicing, because we're a kinesthetic learner, speaking out loud, using our words in many different scenarios, multitasking, so we learn how to edit and all this other stuff at the same time, until we get to that stage where we can have our business, which will be some kind of, we don't want to be a life coach or a transformational coach or spiritual leader as such, but it will be something that covers all of that in our own unique way, because we believe it's not about dictating to someone how to do something. It's about sharing our experiences in a way that kind of makes it clear that we're sharing our stories and our experience in such a way so that whoever's listening, watching, whatever, can listen to them, not be triggered because we're not telling them how to do something, because then we can get triggered on top of all of that. And then it's like, oh, well, that's your own responsibility. You've got to change it, especially in the self-development world at the moment, with it just hitting mainstream. And that's all well and good. And yes, it is. But if someone has gone through so much, then they are not capable of it. And to say comments like that, that only comes from someone that hasn't been through a multitude of traumatic experiences from the different bodies with a multitude of labels that makes life even harder. And these are the people that we want to access, because we know in accessing those peoples and creating stuff that speaks to them in a gentle, compassionate way, but not in an over mothering way, which brings out the victim, because a lot of people would do that with us and we couldn't go into the victim, because if we went into the victim, those energies would come in more and one of us would have killed the host body. So it's these, dancing on such fine lines constantly all the time. And we completely understand why no one could help us, or no system could help us, because we're just completely out there. We're the anomaly of the anomaly. But then when you do cover all of that, like we said before, you cover everyone within. We get down to the fundamental. And so, yeah, we do share our wounds. And yeah, that may be perceived as too much to some. And yeah, that's okay, because this is what we're doing, because this is how we learn and this is how we're practicing, so that we can become completely impeccable between us all, completely integral and authentic and transparent on the spot, in the moment, because we want to be able to plan if that's what's needed. And coming from a teaching background, you plan. But if you're someone like us and you're a perfectionist, then you can plan too much and you can put too much energy into something, especially when we've got EDS and we use up a healthy person with EDS can use up 4 times the amount of energy to do one thing to an average person, an average healthy person. A person with EDS and all the other stuff going on that's not healthy, then you can times that by 4 again. So it's no wonder we aren't able to get stuff done. So it's about finding that max output with most ease, being able to think and act and speak in the moment, following all those values that we want. And that's also why it's taken us so long between doing lives and other things, and why it's been so hard for us to watch them back, because we haven't been that. But we've got to a stage now where we understand from watching, getting more co-conscious, bringing more of us together because we're making friends with everyone and understanding that certain ones of us do stuff in a societal, not acceptable way because that's the only way they know how to do it. But when we make friends with them, rather than killing off the emotions, like we saw some motivational speaker saying the other day, making friends with the emotions, making friends with that aspect of us and seeing, well, why do you do that? What's going on? Asking the questions, letting it sit out there, doing our breathing, doing our walking barefoot, doing our grounding, doing our sun gazing, doing absolutely everything that we're doing, going through the emotions and going, oh my God, we seem to put in so much effort, so much more than anyone else, and we still don't come out with tangible results. But that's fundamental core frequencies of victim consciousness still, which we're never really going to completely get out of until we're off disability benefits, which is brought in our desperation to get off disability benefits. But that's not a reason to get off disability benefits. So we're just dancing and ebbing and flowing between so much and learning so much. And yes, we are starting to get tangible results now. And yes, it has taken a long time. And all this information comes from other people that have said stuff to us over the years, like, oh my God, you put in so much effort and you do get so little back. It is, and no wonder that we've kept going, but we've kept going because we've been connected to Snowflake, who was born when the host body was 2, who was 2 when the host body was 4, and a lot of the severe traumas first. Well, so our mum was emotionally unsound anyway, so we always had to be attached to her hip. So we never had a strong connection of healthy love and bonding when she was alive anyway. And then so when she died, that even got whatever. And then with the incest sexual abuse, that even got, more. So but we just know, and this is also why it's been challenging. This one's we've been told we're psychic, we've been told we've got psychic palms, not that we agree with that terminology again, but just to get the point across in this moment. So we know, and we don't see inside, we're dark, we are the void, we're the vortex, we're the black hole, which is pure potential. Pure potential is a blank canvas, but it's not a blank canvas that's white. And this then gets on all the light workers and all that information. For us, again, we've got to get rid of this. It's about closing the eyes, it's about going inwards. And even when you go inwards and close your eyes, in a way, it is about getting it. If you are able to see pictures and imagery come into your head, we feel it's about calming that down, because it's about getting to the pure. Well, it's not for us, it's about getting to the pure fundamental frequencies of source energy, which when we put our hands on our eyeballs and press in slightly, it does come on its own sometimes, but this is how we can catalyze it happening. We will get the sacred geometry patterning that goes on, because that for us is what source energy is. That is Nassim Haramein, that's actually got all the scientific research and the scientific terminology to talk about this as well. And the rest of it, from the light workers, from belief systems, from myths and tradition, which are beautiful, their stories, their narratives, from tribal lore. This is how narratives and stories have been passed down through generations to grow, to learn, to gain one's own what we call modern spirituality, subjective experience, and then learn to be able to create and express that in the way that suits them best, which normally tends to come through one sensory system. And for us, the catalyst, the motivation for us to keep doing this, even though it causes such discomfort and such transient emotions and chaos, is because this process helps us release our physical pain. It helps our physical body restructure itself and realign itself so that we can get eventually to that posture, to that optimum resonant frequency posture, which we know from yoga and we know from our knowledge. And because we're in a quadruple Aquarius, we know, and because we embody that, we apply that knowledge and embody it and turn it to wisdom. And this was our first thing that we saw before the seizures, but after we kind of left work and went on to disability benefits because we couldn't work anymore, was Pinterest. And it's what we call bioorganic energy, spiritual energy. And so we've got all these pictures that we've kept our focus on to get to. And the psych ward was like, okay, we'll listen to the narratives that come out, because we know what the fundamental frequencies of what we want to get to of alignment, especially of postural alignment in the structural body, of the musculoskeletal system, especially the bones that go right out to the skin. We remembered to put our knee supports on today because the ankle supports have been on the last 2 videos, and then we thought we'd put the knee ones on the last one but forgot, because it was the Capricorn full moon yesterday, and Capricorn rules the bones, the knees, the backbone, the joint, the skin. And 32 has been coming up heaps as well. It's all coming out. This is wonderful. And it's 32 has been coming up heaps as well. 32 is the number of music in the numerology cards. It's the age our mum was when she died. It brings us back to 104 here, which is the length of our video. We're going to another short video we created this morning, which is 1 hour 4 minutes. I think it was actually 1 hour 4 minutes and 16 seconds, because on the first speed up to do a colouring in thing timeline that's fast, it went down to 32.8, or it could have been 32.16. I don't know. It was a certain amount of seconds, but it went from 104 down to 32. And when you're doing the 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, it doesn't go from 32 to 104, but of course there's 60 minutes in 1 hour, and so 1 hour 4 minutes is a 64 minutes, and it's different codes, it's different terminologies, it's different perspectives. And we did the axes the other day, where you've got your your addition and your subtraction on your X and Y, and then on like your A and B, which was on the diagonal like that, you had your division and your multiplication. And for us, you know, a lot of people in the tarot world, which is, we love tarot, honestly. Tarot is just bringing so much together, but we love oracle too. And you've got your color for sensory systems, you've got your patterns. Was it Tesla said once, if you want to know the secret, or if you want to know the secret of the universe, or in some phrasing like that, think of it as in atom, frequency and vibration or something. But for Snowflake, if you want to know the secret of the universe, think of it as color, number, and patterns or something. And so the video's gone from 104. 104 also could be 14. That's Sagittarius. That's the temperance card. That's the balance, the alchemization. But it's not like the 2 balance and alchemization. It's a bigger themed alchemization. Sagittarius is the rule of the thighs, and it's our thighs, how we know so well about fascia adhesions, everything, because we've been dancing with our body, with everything for like so long. And we remember our first spots massage, and OMG, that was, who said that instead of oh my god, that's what the young ones do, isn't it? Well done. They were so adhered, and it was so painful. But our left thigh, we still, you can feel, we go up here, it's interesting because we talked about the colon. We had a big colon release, didn't we, in Joy to Coco? But we said that the calves and the forearms were the colon. But what we didn't say was that your right calf is your ascending colon, and your left calf is your descending colon. And we're now thinking, well, does that mean that does the pattern opposite? And is it your right arm is still the forearm is still the ascending, and your left arm is the descending? And we don't know, because we got this information from polarity therapy. In one of our polarity therapy books, we've got books on lots of this. And one of us has done that reading, but that was the intellectual knowledge reading. Since then, we've had the experience, and it's really challenging for us to share our experiential knowledge because of, I suppose, our lack of self-worth and our lack of self-belief, which is changing, which is shifting. We're getting stronger because everything that we do, we're starting to see more people out there, people that we fully respect and that are really up there and reputable in their field. Yeah, the rainbow EMFs, the rainbow EMFs say, yeah, lots of different fields. You have different words that go with different other things, you see. Okay, so they're talking about the different words. So in the Stephen King book at the moment, cell is coming up a lot, but it's cell as in the cell, the prison of the dungeon. That came up for us a little while ago because of Shawshank Redemption is one of our favorite films. And I think it was the poo puddle Cindy was talking about, and someone else. And so poo and shizers came up quite a bit. And then there's the conversation that went on between some of us. Would you call food shit if it meant getting your freedom? And the one that answered that was like, no, because they're really sensitive on their sense of smell and things like that. And it's like, no, it's like, what if your freedom meant staying in this tiny cell, like in Shawshank Redemption, blah, 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 for the rest of your life? And then it's like, oh, okay, I hadn't thought of it like that. So all these different kind of scenarios kind of come up. So then it's like, well, I suppose this is where etymology comes in, and where you get to the fundamental root of a word. You've got cell as in prison, you've got your cells which are in your body. That was a song that we used to, every little cell in your body is happy, every little cell. It's something out, well, we can't remember that one now, but for a very long, that was our song that went about, and that's what we were singing for ages to do this reprogramming. So what is it? A cell must be some form of, in a prison, you've got a room next to another room, and you've got like blocks on top of each other. So it's building blocks, it's Lego, it's a cellular structure, is some kind of building block thing that creates a confined unit in a set space, which is bringing us into boundaries and boundaries of the body, which is brings us into our ligaments, which is the connective tissue disorder, which relates to your Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which we feel there's a lot of people out there that are empaths that do have this capacity to break their boundaries and to not serve themselves or nurture themselves in a way that's healthy and doing too much for others because we feel others' pain. And it's not that we're just doing too much for others because that's the good thing to do. We're doing too much for others because it actually makes us feel better, because we feel better when those around us are feeling okay. And one thing we learned really early on was that we didn't necessarily fully understand it, but we did understand it quite a bit because it stayed with us, is that one of the most important things being an empath is to be able to discern, not that we would have used this language because this is language we've learned since, discern our own shit from someone else's. And so we really need to do this journey of involution for ourselves when we're empaths, so that we can be around others who are going through chaos and aren't feeling okay, but yet we're so strong and anchored in our heart and anchored in our own sense of beingness and who we are, even if that's a multiple in one body or one person in one body, or whatever that person's individual expression and experience is with life and consciousness and the world around them. But that's okay, because old people, when they get older, they start talking to themselves out loud. So we talk to ourselves out loud. This has all happened because it can't happen inside because of the way our wirings happen, because of the DID and the EDS and everything. But this is what we feel happens as a human as they get older anyway. The spectrum of resonance that we can see in, that we can hear in, diminishes and sometimes gets cut off with certain traumas, so that we can survive life, so that we can evolve through the generations. But it's a very limited way of doing it, when actually it's not just the baby that's been born in that generation that has the gifts that's happening from the astrological planets that's going on. We all have the capability of doing that throughout the life. It's just why would we do that? There's no point in doing that if our life's comfortable. You know, the Western world has got comfortable. They have pretty much everything they want from one perspective. We are privileged in the Western world compared to the Eastern world. They don't understand. When we were in Bali, when we were 19, they don't understand counseling. They don't understand, tribal people don't understand certain things. It's just like this stuff that goes on. East Asia, we read the book. Oh, in Vietnam, we read the book. And we're not a reader, but when we're in the country and when it's something that's relative, we could do it. On the Khmer Rouge, when we did all the Angkor Wat temples, 3 days worth. When we were in East Asia, we read the book on sex slaves in East Asia and learned that they had their kind of equivalent, that when the daughter would have her virginity taken away from her by her father, not out of a survival mechanism to get a new tin roof or build the walls on their shack, but so they could get a TV, because they have the stuff that they want stuff that the Western world wants. So we've got off there again. But all of this is us talking, us expressing, us sharing our flow state and learning from the numbers. So thank you, Eve, for your video yesterday and Everlong Mystic, and our comment, and us having the courage to keep posting it anyway. And then us having grown through watching tarot readers and being allowed to watch them through other ones of us judging us, saying we shouldn't watch that, blah, 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 all the external belief systems and how we grow up. Because when we get to a point where we watch tarot readers and they say something and it doesn't trigger ones of us anymore, then we know we're growing. We know we're becoming whole. We know we're growing up us into generational consciousness. But we still are having access to that completely innocent 4-year-old. And that's what's beautiful about our traumas. Most people grow up and empowerment and play from a child perspective becomes power and greed to fill that void inside of us that we can't fill as an adult. And we know those ones because there's some of us like that, but they're not the main drivers of us. The main drivers are Snowflake, and she's 4, and it's always been about empowerment and play and inclusion and involvement. Here comes the rain. That's why we open the window. Here comes the rain. Da-da-da-da. So yesterday was our Lafruma card Oracle short. We're going to challenge it and do it every day. And then it was kind of like, well, we want to do a short on every channel every day because they're kind of, we're not going to get into it because some people think that shorts aren't this because of our attention span and the rest of it. But like literally ones of us have been on conversations between all of this and we've got pretty much an answer for everything. But there's got to be a time and a place for each of this and we need to focus. But then it's like we want to do shorts on each of the channels, but we don't just want it to be an oracle card and tarot card short, which is kind of easy. We want our creative juices to flow because we are a really creative person. But we've never been able to harness that energy and keep it moving because I suppose we've got DID and we switch between the different altars. But we're starting to learn to understand how to harness that energy and how to keep it flowing, but not from a conscious mind perspective, from an actual doing it. You've got to start the ball rolling and then just allow it to flow and surrender to it flowing, and navigate congestion and stuff that comes up in that process of flow, which is what we're doing now. And ones of us wanted to do colouring in and, you know, time, it's not, what's it called, speed length, the time length, where you speed up the video. And so it might take you 4, 5, 6 hours how to do something, do a jigsaw, do a colouring in, whatever, and then to speed it up. But then of course you need to understand the technology, you need to understand the memory cards, you need to have a system for filing and organising it, where for us it gets complicated because different ones of us file and organize stuff in different ways. And then when we want to find stuff back again, it tends to be another aspect of the one that stored it, but not that one that wants to find it, but then can't find it. And so we're attempting to find a system that works for that and organize all our digital space. And so that's again why the videos came up and why the live videos came up, because you don't need to deal with memory cards. You don't need to deal with any of that. You don't need to deal with editing. And with editing, you're looking at yourself back again. And we've heard lots of people go, well, we're not doing the editing because we want it to be a complete flow state. And for us, that one aspect of that is true, but there's always multiple reasons. Another reason is it's because it's really hard to learn editing. Another reason is because it's extra hard to sit there and watch yourself back editing, and continue to be compassionate and gentle with yourself, or allow all the negativity and the other negative talk come, which is okay. You know, it's about understanding the negative talk, and we've always been the best positive thinker going and having a positive expression for every negative because we were the best negative thinker going. And so this morning it's been amazing. So we did our breath work like we usually do after our sunrise alarm went off, and now it's getting later in the morning, which we're loving. Yesterday we got really excited though because 10:10 came up and Tito, come. Okay. Tell you what, Earl Grey and lemon's really nice, honey, it's really nice. It's almost nicer cold too. I suppose that's the iced tea, isn't it? So 10 is a big number. It's a big number. It's karmic completion. It's phi. It's the 0 and the 1 together that make phi, golden ratio. It's the number of the room we were in the psych ward. It's 28 added together makes 10. The house number we were picked up outside by the police before the psych ward. We started on 11/11/2019. What is 19? 19 is 1 plus 2, that's 3. So it would have been 11/11/3, but it would have been 11/11/3. we're in 2023 now, and so we break it down. 2023 adds up to 7. Small picture, when you do shorthand, is people tend to just put 23, so it's a 5. But if you look at it a micro picture, it's a 3. So we're on the micro vibration of 3 for 2023 from the macro vibration of 2019, which is 3. So it's we've gone from the macro 3 to the micro 3, which is the macrocosm without the galaxy to the microcosm within your bacteria. So all of this for us just connects together, and it's just amazing. It's fascinating. It's beautiful. And we will continue to get concise and summarize and get there. So we started very consciously, and I think there's a lot of our Facebook videos on Shintosai Facebook page, but we don't use Facebook anymore. I think there has been a couple of sharings from YouTube, but we don't use it because we don't agree with Mark Zuckerberg's values on a whole. And we understand how, if you want to give up drugs and you want to stop smoking, you can't really surround yourself in a drug party lifestyle and around lots of smokers, because it's really hard to do that. So we become who we surround ourselves with. We become what we eat. So because we're so in touch, and it's the subtle energetics that we're navigating to heal ourselves from the inside out, because we did the outside in, the tangible, going inwards for so long and it didn't work. It was ended up being detrimental, but we learned so much from it. But our way is to find that fundamental thing of the inside out that can work for anyone, whoever they are, even if it's someone that's autistic and paraplegic and locked inside. Their carers can do it and access stuff, and then there'll be a freeing up. That's what we believe. But of course, stuff like this needs to be applied and proven. But although science is about disproving, really, but we're not getting into that. So we stopped using Facebook because it's the subtle energetics that we're so in tune with, and YouTube is much more diverse. And plus, it's got the word tube in, and we tubular bodies. Yeah, that is right, isn't it? We want to clear our tubular channels. Yeah, and the U-bend's really important. It's the U-bend in your plumbing that gets clogged up, isn't it? It is. So it's the U-bends in our body that gets clogged up. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, my lovelies. I love your ways. And that's just linked us back earlier after the psych ward, when we said the witnessing ones of us. It was one full moon and we were exhausted and we just wanted to sleep. And honestly, we went to sleep so many times. We went to sleep, we'd lay down and we'd just be going off into that dozing state. And another alternate personality would come in and use the body and we'd be up again. And this just kept happening, I think pretty much for the whole night. We can't remember how long for, but we've got photos of that night. And we were reading our Secret Language of the Body book. We were reading the emotions, mostly scanning it backwards, because if you scan it backwards, it accesses different parts of the brain, so you don't get triggered. And if we get triggered, we'd dissociate and we wouldn't be capable then to bring ourselves back. So we were scanning it backwards. Sometimes we'd read the emotions backwards. We made up this huge jar of herbal stuff, which then went into the bath, and oils. There's all this like magicianry concoction stuff going on. Oh my, that's what was in the end of 48 in the Lafruma card short yesterday, Leaf Shade, about your tinctures and nature wisdom whispering to you, because our little ones are connected to that. And so, yeah, so this kind of went on, and that then was just a real moment of clarity of just going, wow, because we just had the psych ward experience. We became aware, consciously aware, not being able to use our body, not being able to use our voice, physically restrained by 8 people, chaos all over the place, going, what the fuck is going on? But what the fuck was going on wasn't coming out. And that brings us back to the Stephen King book again. Thank you, Stephen King, because we swear in us putting our energy out there and our energy being strong, and then everyone else that's put energy, and there's been a lot of us, and everyone else putting their energy out there for certain questions being asked, and then this book comes out and it answers them. Because in it, we're not going to go into it because we don't want to ruin it, but in it, the guy goes to say certain things, and what he's thinking to say doesn't come out in the words. It's different words that come out, and sometimes he can say what the words are and sometimes he can't. And Our First Love wrote a book that came out after we were out of the psych ward, and it's called The Lip, and backwards it's the pill. And And there's a quantum entanglement there that really needed healing. And the content of that book is about a mum who ends up being who in her mind, mum disappears and she's become the little sister of her daughter. So there's very much DID frequencies in that again. And so, yeah, we're just, it's just really understanding the source energy through the complexity of the human body, but not through the complexity of a human body that's posturally aligned, that's posturally aligned and experiences trauma and chaos and a midlife crisis or a grief or this happen. A body that never got to be posturally optimally resonantly aligned, and trauma upon trauma, and why it's so challenging to navigate oneself to a life of contentment and balance and peace and calm and harmony. And so I suppose that's our gifts through all of this. We can see why a sexual abuser sexually abuses. We can see all the dark, perceived duality, reality, dark side of stuff. And then we can see the other side of it. And maybe that's also a gift and a beauty of an Aquarius being able to detach on top of the DID and the rest of it. But we're not cold. And the autism, people think people with autism or Asperger's are cold. We feel that's not the case. We feel they feel so deeply. And there is this miswiring because we believe the autistic brain is the brain of the future. It's a brain of true authenticity. It doesn't fit into algorithms. It doesn't fit into set boxes and set rules and set routines from a linear, masculine, logical perspective. It fits into circular system routines. But it's challenging to see the circular system routine, because when we're in the circular system spiral vortex of the unseen energetics, it's the void, it's chaos, it's whatever's going on in the sensory system that's inside the body from the subjective experience, which gets very intangible from the logical mind. And from a conditioned logical mind, which is the most dominant mind from the societal perspectives at the moment, our mental health book's just going to end up being a book for giants. Jack and the Beanstalk's been coming up a lot. And that's the reverse of Jack and the Beanstalk. And we gave beans actually to Jenny Florence, who we were talking about earlier as well. So yesterday was a very momentous day because we reached 19 subscribers on this channel. Thank you for any of you that have done that. It was only because it was a kitten video. And people love the kitten videos, don't they? Kitten video in the vegetable jungle. And we hit 28 videos, 19 the sun, 28 I don't know, 28 Judge the World, 21, which technically could be 22 if you do it from the perspective of Patch Tarot, where the Fool is the 0 and the 1. It's the phi, it's the golden ratio, it's the center of the vortex, it's the center of the spiral on the pine cone, it's the center of the sunflower, it's the center of that spiral pattern, which is a link between the unseen and the seen, because we see that spiral pattern in nature all the time, whether we're aware of it or not. And that's why it also brings in Eve again. Eve is the numbers girl. She's the one that comments on stuff like this. Okay, so the order within the chaos is, and that's the Tesla code, the 3, the 6, the 9, which is a seesaw, a line, a string put into your rope. So it's the top of the pack of cards, the bottom of the pack, which is a line put into a rope, a connection. So if your top of your pack's 2 and the bottom of your pack's 4, added together they're 6. So it would be a 2/4 and a 2/6, which is actually half and a third. We did all our tuning forks the other day. There's been all the Fibonacci tuning and everything going on. So yeah, it's been a momentous day. We can't put words into it. Yesterday was a momentous day because of the numbers, but they'll go up and down, they'll shift. So it brings it into the 10-10, a double karmic completion, which brings us back to the 11th of November, 11/11, 2019. 19 adds up to 1. So it would be 11/11 1. So it is a 1 1 1 1 1. So it is a 1 vibration, although 11 is second tier 2, so it would have been like 2 2 1 or 2 2 3, which means you've got the foundation before 2 and the foundation after 2, 1 and 3, which brings us into the pattern that we used to do Aquarius to Ophiuchus on this channel on the box opening, which is like the rune. We can do it in big on here. We're not sure the name of the rune because it's the runes that are putting it all together for us, which is like this rune, which is like if you go into our Tom Brown, our tracking books that we love reading, I think it's like the Tita Pomomom. Yeah, I think it's the tracking footprint of a crow or some kind of bird, which links us back to Jenny and the two Fool cards in her Crow Tarot that were crows. And so for us, with the Lafruma card at the back, we connect everything into the body. So for us, there's this patterning here. We're doing our first whiteboard tutorial style thing. We are, aren't we? Wow. It's all just coming together where how it doesn't realise that it's coming together, and our teacher stuff's coming back out again. So you've got the pattern of the runes on the back of this card. So you've got your central channel, the Sushumna, where source energy, source cosmic energy, the higher vibration energy flows in through the top, and the shamanic earthly energy flows in through the bottom. And this goes down your spinal column. It's your skull, your brain. Hence we do lots of little squiggles. And okay, so what are you saying there? And that brings us back to our head injury on our head, and the EDS not being able to handle local anesthetics. It doesn't cut the pain off for us. We had the maximum. This is when we were, I think this is when we were 10 actually. It's when we were 10 or 11. It could have been 11. We said a memory yesterday about 10, didn't we? We moved into 88 Behelland Road in 1988. 8 is our birth-given vibration, our host body birth-given vibration name. 8's our master number. We started taking extra maths homework home at 7, which is with the energetics going at the moment. I don't know if it's the nodal shifts of Libra and Aries, or if it's something to do with the Neptune transit or something else that we've watched. But when you minus the years back, 1987 was one of them. That's when we started taking extra maths homework home to soothe us. 10 was when we put Malkins in the doll's clothes with a bonnet on, with a blanket on, in the pram feeding a chocolate. So I think our head injury was when we were 11. So going back to 11/11, 2019, that's when we consciously opened up our subconscious portal, our subjective reality. And we've got all those meditations with our vision board that we created in 2012 on our Facebook page, because that was the one that our little ones used. That was another reason we got off Facebook, and it was the first reason we got off Facebook, because our younger ones were more familiar and used Facebook, and we were attempting to grow them up and take us away from the habitual patterning. So then in January, so from the 11th of November 2019, our internal subjective reality, conscious aware, stepping into that portal gateway. We were doing sound healing at the time, but that wasn't working because everyone around us, even the people that are on this awareness journey, didn't have death driving them, didn't have suicide driving them, didn't have that desire and that want to finally meet a loving partner that was healthy and live with someone and have a family. You know, most people tend to be able to get to that anyway, but we couldn't, and we can't settle. Because then we'll feel more alone in a relationship than not in a relationship. And you can't be in a relationship if you can't communicate through words and talking. And we couldn't do that. And we didn't know about the DID. So yeah, there's lots of reasons. And so we had to cut off from everyone. I mean, the last sound healing thing we paid for, like around £100 or just over, was us giving them a healing thing. We wouldn't allow them to do stuff on us anymore because we were getting taken too deep and it was becoming detrimental to our health and well-being. But we couldn't even communicate to them at the time, and it wasn't their fault as such. But this is where we need to understand energy from people that are severely traumatized in all their bodies, in all their chakras, because if it keeps going how it's going, we're going to cause so much more instability in the mental health, so much more suicide. All these statistics are going to start raising. And we don't want that if we can prevent it, do we? It's all about preventative measures from our perspective. So the 10th of January, 1001, 2020. So we're now on to doubles, because you've got 11, 22 here, and you've got the 10 mirrored. Was the Cancer, I think it was it's in January, which is Capricorn new moon. So it would be the Cancer full moon eclipse. So we've been dancing with moon living by the cycles of the moon consciously for the last 7 years now. Our first book, I think, is 2017. Our first book is 2017 of the Gardening by the Moon book. And so that was our first day where I think we pestered, and I think we were pretty strong-willed, and I think we can be quite intimidating and dominant. Which one would be if they're fighting for their life and they can't communicate it to anyone? And we were fighting for our life. Because when you're not able to use your body, you're not able to use your mouth, and you're witnessing your body do things that's harmful, we have to be compassionate. You have to find a way to access them, to stop it happening. Even if it took hours and days and weeks and months, 7 years later. And that was our first online group sound meditation, 6 weeks, and our connection to the external reality through the portal of the World Wide Web. With people that we, knew, so we thought we could trust it, but actually it's the pros and the cons. We're not going to go there. That's not appropriate. But we've done lots of stuff online since, and that was the least experienced and the most expensive. That's victim consciousness, and that's from, so we're clearing more stuff now. That's from the conventional constructive criticism of where you get a critique, go to a restaurant and comment on the food, or if we comment on a book someone's written, and we just don't agree with any of that. So yeah, from that perspective, it's the most expensive and the least experienced. But from our higher self that's anchored through our heart, our higher self that's got the anchored and connection through our heart, we understand energetically what goes on for all this. So before we say that, the first one is we understand if Earth is a playground, if Earth is a theatre, and every person is their own individual main character of the play, not many people really want to step in and be the baddie in the play that is the sexual abuser, that is the murderer, that is the rapist, So from that perspective, big ups to our Father from a spiritual soul perspective, because most people don't want to do that. And so from that perspective, from the sound healers, yeah, maybe it was the most expensive, maybe it was the least experienced, but they were the most connected to us in physical form, including the energetic form. So the subatomic quantum realms and the tangible Newton physics realms joined together because of what had been going on. And we've not been able to speak that out loud in that way before. So that's pretty profound for us. And that has even more meaning. So there's lots of things we've paid for and bought and then not used for whatever reason, sometimes us, sometimes the other person. Because sometimes we bought stuff and we've been under the impression we've got it for life, like that's one of the things, and then we go back to do it and we don't have it for life. So this is like Stephen Washington, who does Qigong, and it's Lee Harris's husband. Lee Harris did stuff that you have for life, but I think Steve Washington was just starting out, and we purchased something that we thought then we had for life, but we didn't have it for life. So when we came back to it, we couldn't use it. And so then we have to go through those victim consciousness narratives. And then we learned, well, actually, when we purchase something, whether we use it or not in the physical form, there's this energetic exchange going on, and we're getting something out of it, even if we're not getting what we consciously thought we were getting out of it. And that brings us back to the mistakes that we make from a conscious mind's perceived mistakes, are where a lot of our answers have been held. And one of the most beautiful things that is tangible is that when you buy something from one of these creators, whether you use it or not, is you're providing them a wage and a salary and a way to sustain their living of creating, because creating is so important. And it generally does cost a little bit more money to do stuff like that. And so that's been a really beautiful way for us to navigate past that. And that same concept can be applied to the same sound healers. So going back to, so that's the Capricorn full moon on the solstice energies. Tito Pomo Momo, it is really coming together now. We're not going to get up and get it, but we've got a little tiny pink whiteboard which we put together for Kirsty Gallagher with Lunar Living on the solstice equinox after the cycle in 2020, when we had, and Tito Momo by day. Okay, slow down guys, please, slow down. Day. Thank you. Which is the double Cancer new moon. But I don't think they were both in the same month. It was a double Cancer new moon, but it wasn't in the same month. And what they then just added on, and we did a whole yoga thing with her and stuff on that, and we wrote something down. It was meant to be for the next like 6 months, I think. 3 months to 6 months, a season to half a season. But for us with the EDF and everything else that's going on, it's been like the next 3 years. But you get so much more with it. It's long-term gratification over instant or short-term gratification. And that would have been short-term gratification over instant gratification, which tends to be the society we live in at the moment in the Western world, and what the Eastern world's kind of desiring in ways. So we just had the double Aries new moon. Aries for us is our heart, Venus, and a sense of value. So it's the tangible. And if our heart is the deepest, most untangible and subjective, and Venus is the ruler of Taurus and Libra, the physical and the non-physical, but to do with partnerships and relationships in intimate, to friends, to professional, informal and formal relationships, in whether it's people, things, businesses, whatever. For us, a relationship goes down to the fundamental of a relationship between one thing and another, whatever that is, because one can't actually analyze or understand without a comparison that goes on between the relationship of one thing and another thing. A ratio, a half, 1 to 2. You got 3 parts and you got 1 part to the 2 parts, like in cooking. So, and that's the Venus, the Taurus, the values. It's in 8. It's in our house 8, the master vibration 8 coming up again, which is Scorpio, death and rebirth, mysteries. Excuse us, but we're not excusing us because we said excuse us rather than sorry. So it is excuse us, but we're embracing it because it's a release. And Cancer and Aries are on the same global axes of the cardinal energies, which when we did the mini tarot lesson of the body parts and the cards that went with the star signs on this channel on the box opening, we had it all there ready, but we didn't go to it. We didn't have the black moon astrology cards for the planets out. They were in a pile with our mini pocket not Radiant Reality, that's a YouTuber, Rider-Waite tarot of the aces, the very deepest center, and the royals around the outside. And so with your royals around the outside, we're going to do a bit of showing off now for our little ones now, because we've spent a long time on Patch Tarot Wisdom Wheel for this. Your royals, your queens are your cardinal, your kings are your mutable, which took us a while to figure out. And I still don't really understand why kings are mutable as such. It's not as solid. Our understanding of queens being cardinal and our understanding of knights being fixed, it's pretty solid, which means they've got no option but the kings to be mutable. But there is a glimpse of why the kings are mutable, but we don't have a solid understanding. But it's not that the queens are just cardinal. The queens, kings and knights, the cardinal, mutable and fixed, they're 2/3 of that dominant sign. So you can figure it out, and this is always how we have to figure it out rather than from memory, is your queen's a cardinal. There's a set formula there, that's easy. Your queen is also the 2/3, the bigger part of the queen, also related to the elemental energy of that sign. So if you come out with the Queen of Cups, which is actually what we're in at the moment, I'm pretty sure, yeah, because it's cardinal and we're talking about Cancer, and Cancer is a water sign and we're in the sun season of Cancer. So therefore the Queen of Cups is 2/3 Cancer, and the sign before Cancer is Aries, Taurus, Gemini's Cancer. It's Gemini, so it's 2/3 water and 1/3 air. So it's 2/3 Cancer and 1/3 Gemini. 2/3 cardinal, 1/3 mutable. Okay, we're stopping there now. That was another bit of a sidetrack that's all coming together. So we've got our central channel, our Sushumna, the shamanic, earthly, denser vibrations, your Taurus energies, your Venus energies coming in from the earth, the slower wavelength, the red of the rainbow. You've got your faster coming in, your cosmic spiritual energies coming in through the top of your Sushumna. So if you were to look at this, you'd kind of like, if we were to draw a body. Tito Pomomo. Okay, we're getting ahead of ourselves, aren't we? We're going to draw the body after we've done the lines, because it'll be easier to do the lines, and then we'll get the thing of drawing the body. And this is going to be a start for us getting our artistic creative skills back, which is then going to lead into our short, which is what we need to do all this now, so we could do our short video on these, because free cards came out this morning for the short, and and it's all about the numbers, isn't it? And so we've got to show our process of our short creations this morning before we can go on to the next stage of creating the short. So this is our central channel, our Sushumna. It's from the head and the central nervous system, which goes down the spinal column, but it also goes down to the sacrum and then the coccyx. And you've got your 7 cervical, your neck spine, you've got your 12 thoracic, and then you've got your 5 lumbar, your lower back. Your thoracic is where your rib cage is for the breathing, and your lumbar is the flexibility that goes on. Are we still recording? I don't know. Our screen's just gone on to Saver. We are still recording. That's really interesting. Why did that happen? Maybe because we've got the YouTube, the whiteboard up. So our computer screen just went onto its green matrix. The matrix, like from the movie, and it's all the green coding going down, but you can see the people at the end and the hallway through it. That's a screensaver. And that was on the lumbar, the flexibility of it. And then I think the sacrum has anywhere from 3 to 5. I think it varies on people, or it could be 5 discs, and the coccyx is, and they're kind of fused, but there is movement. And the coccyx, the tail is 3 to 5. So I'm not sure if it's 3 to 5 on the sacrum or the coccyx, or it could be 5 on the sacrum and 3 to 5 on the coccyx, depending on people. And the coccyx is then where you get your tail coming out of, the energetic tail, which then can create that torus flow of energy that goes off into the donut, the toroidal flow. So you get them that would actually come around in a beautiful pattern. But we're getting sidetracked now, though. But I'm loving that we've actually been able to get all this out through our senses with our hands, because what we in our YouTube video of us doing our pickled gherkins with apple cider vinegar and live bacteria, and we're eating it, and we wanted to do the Italian thing of mamma mia, yummy, where you put your hand to your mouth and go mwah. When we went to do that, our hand went over here, which goes to show the disconnection on the spatial awareness and the way it didn't link up. But we corrected it and then went back and did it to our mouth. But that's the natural instinctual one, which shows the misalignment in a physical, tangible experience. So the next 2 channels on the back of this Lafruma card. So you've got the middle one going down the center here, and then you've got these 2 going down the outside. Now this is your up here, top of your collarbones energies. And so this is the big torus. So I suppose this is the one we're aiming for. The central channel, and you've got your torus where your energy goes down the middle. That's the whole. Your energy goes down the middle, and there's this balance between it. And that, I suppose, on the majority of people, but this is what's changing because of all the central nervous system disorders and ailments that are coming into play, which modern medicine doesn't understand from a doctor's perspective. America's better for that because you have to pay for your medicine. than England, but England's better for if you break your leg or something, which is very tangible because you don't have to pay for it, and you have to pay for that in America. So there's the pros and cons on the medical system we see from both perspectives. So this will be the tourist that goes through everything, and then from your sit bones. So if you look at the pelvis and you've got your sit bones, you can actually feel your sit bones. If you kind of would sit on your bum and move round, you can feel these bony bits on either side of your sit bones. And for us, that was getting protruding out. So this is your sit bones here up to your hip bones. And then there's another toroidal energy that goes through them on their own. And so then you've got the patterning. Sit bones. I suppose it's your shoulders, but it's collarbone. It's kind of like a collarbone. It's where it's important, because when your collarbone breaks, you can't do anything about it. And then you've just got, so we've got this one. We've got this one. You've got 3 going down the middle. So where does that middle line start? Above this one. So we've not quite got these right. There we go. So that starts down there, maybe. This is like all spontaneous. So maybe that goes like that. And so then you've got 3 lines going up and 3 lines going down. And so for us, where these intersections happen, you draw a line across there, and now that's your shoulder line. So that's the line going across here. And you draw a line through this center point, and that's your hip line. And they're 2 important axes. And then the third cross, because you've got 1, 2, 3 crosses in the middle, is in your middle, and that's your rib cage. It's the bottom of your rib cage where your diaphragm, because the diaphragm's really important, but we're not going to, because the diaphragm is, we're pretty sure it's the only muscle, but you have to check up on all this, and we're going to be checking up on all this ourselves, but we have to watch these back to then let information to sink in, and then that whole process happens on its own. So the diaphragm is the only muscle that works opposite to the rest. So most muscles on a simplistic perspective, you've got your activating muscle, and you've got the synergist of that, which is your expanding muscles. You've got 1 contracting and 1 expanding. You've got your Jupiter archetypal energies, and you've got your Saturn archetypal energies. But in their natural state, they're just resting state, they're at rest. So it's not until we do something, whether it's with our voluntary muscles, our peripheral nervous system, or instinctually do something where we've been done something so much with our peripheral nervous system. I'm not quite right now because I'm thinking, but where you'd just be like, on thirsty, I've got a drink there, I'm going to take a drink, swallowing. That's an involuntary muscle. It's an automatic nervous system. Your diaphragm is an automatic nervous system, an involuntary muscle, but it's not relaxed. That's it. So most muscles are relaxed in their resting state. The diaphragm in its resting state isn't relaxed, it's contracted, and it's working, and it's only starts getting relaxed, expanding and stretching when we breathe in. So the longer we can breathe in for, the more our diaphragm will expand, and the more the diaphragm will give our internal organs below that, the stomach, the colon, the large intestines, and the intestines, a massage. And so then when you're doing twists, it's like a sponge, you're really twisting the old blood and the old toxins and those dissonant frequencies out to let the new blood come in. And so the diaphragm's really important in this. And a lot of our manifestation videos that we're talking about on Facebook, we've got a little plastic body where you can take it apart and take all the organs apart and put them back together again. Because what will transpire, I've got a feeling from Tito Momo, this will be interesting if it comes out. We're doing our finger there as we swap. Tito Momo. We just changed the energetic patterning on the winding up. I'm going clockwise, which is tightening, to anti-clockwise. If you do any kind of witchcraft or Wicca, you'll probably have learnt that one. What are we talking about? We're talking about the body. It's gone. So the body and something that's going to come about from this. Okay, so something that's going to come about from this process that we're doing, something to do with create. We don't know, it's gone. We were going too fast. We were getting ahead of ourselves. So for us, the Lafruma would probably have those horizontal lines as well, because in yoga, to gain length, to gain height, and we were 5'10", and through this process we've been squashed to 5'8", because that's when we got our EDS test done from a doctor, written down as evidence, because we could never reach our full potential, whether it's in the physical postural alignment or in society success and money or whatever, because of the miswiring. And so because of our yoga and everything that's happened and everything we've gone through, we're down to 5'8", we believe we're going to be more like 6 foot when we get our length back. But to get our height and our length back, you don't lengthen a muscle, you widen it. And so we were thinking that this has got a symbol missing because it doesn't have these in, and because we relate everything to the body. But just in this moment, all this is another one of these on top of each other. Do you get what I'm saying? It's just another one of them on top of each other. So it's like the when you draw the Tesla code, like we did on that yellow piece of paper that we showed the other day, and normally you just do the 1 2 3 4 5 6, or 1 2 if we do the teaching and the mirroring, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, where you've got your 3 6 and 9, and when you join them together you've got a triangle, and then you've got this kind of like double U-shaped pattern when you link together the 1, the 2, the 4, the 5 and the 7 and the 8. But for us, it's done it again. We're getting into the matrix. It's all so yeah, no, this is good. But that's interesting, because if that happens, we don't really want that to happen as such. On the thing, we don't need to sort that out now. Come on, guys, this is all too much coming through and in and together at the moment. So we do the triangle on top of the triangle, which is, like we said, the shamanic energies. If you've got the triangle going up like that, where you've got the point facing up and you've got the flat base, we're really going through it at the moment, because we're going through the inside out, back to front ones. Because would the energy go into the point, or would the energy come up the bottom? Russell Brunson, yeah. Click funnel. Okay, so with a funnel, you put the water in through the wide bit, and then it comes out the thin bit at the bottom. And we're getting confused because this goes into the energetics of the layers upon layers of the subconscious and the childhood programming when you're a child, and then you put the layers on as you go to an adult and you have your identity. This is what we feel. We don't know, because we're already, like many of us, in one to start with. But then the one identity adult then goes on the spiritual journey, realizing they've got loads of archetypal energies and different personalities, which for a really rigid fascia adhered mind and body can cause chaos and psychotic episodes that conventional medicine talks about. And this is the 43-year-old man and the 18-month-old child that we had a conversation with outside, who had heritage connections to New Zealand, and we had our Punami on, because he was telling us his story of how he consciously made the decision that he was going to probably have to go a bit psychotic, and I think he went into the psych ward about 4 times to be able to go to the journey he needed to go down to get to his sanity, which reminds us of the quote of the fractal pictures we have up on our ceiling in the bedroom. The therapy room doesn't have words, but our bedroom has the words, because in our bedroom we go deep, we go young, and we need to be brought back to language and logic and the external reality. Not been in there for a while at the moment. We were in here sleeping, then we went to the therapy room sleeping, but we moved back in here sleeping to get a moon bath from the Capricorn full moon, which we haven't actually had, I don't think, apart from the day before the full moon when we saw a bit of it to start with. Otherwise there's been clouds and rain. And so there's a quote that says one has to become, this is paraphrasing now, or it doesn't say access at all, but one has to access their insanity. One has to become insane before they can reach sanity. And it says about other quotes about all starting from imagination and creation. So, and we're seeing it even more in this picture now. We will stand up for that one. We won't. We're cool. Read Little People, dwarfs. Little People in Titomo. Oh, it's in that tarot card, wasn't it? The Book of Shadows Tarot, Volume 2, of Little People on the Step. Yeah, and a woman standing up. Oh, okay. And Snow White, Seven Dwarfs. Snowflake, Titomo. And the fairy tale in the child cards, Titomo. See, anyone would say we're completely insane. And we would be completely insane, apart from we can be coherent with what's going on for us now. We can be familiar and comfortable with what's going on for us now. And this is what someone else says is a very fine line between being a mystic, thank you, Everlong Mystic, and Mystic Witch Tarot, and being insane. And that's about one's own sense of, I suppose, identity, or for us, many identities in one, because an adult will then go through the multiple fractions. So we were talking about the Tesla code. We've got another colour coming up here. We're on green and orange. We're in the emotions. So here, you've got like one triangle. Here, I don't know where we've got that. You've got the other triangle. So from one perspective, the energies would flow in the white part and come out the top. From another perspective, the energies would flow in the narrow part and come out. It just depends on the layer and the depth that's going on. Because I know in our nervous system, we would have to do things that would make our nervous system get close. If they're too far apart, that nervous system's just cut. There's no connections going on. But if we did stuff and brought them closer together, there'd then be this like, so it's like a magnet. If you've got the magnets and they're positive to positive or negative to negative, I'm not sure if it's that on both of them or just maybe negative negative, they repel. You can't actually get them to touch. They push each other away. But if it is positive to negative, they'll get in and they won't feel each other. But as soon as that electromagnetic pull happens, they're joining together. And so we'd feel that with our nerves. And I remember when we were going through this, there would be the wide part of the circle, when you could have the narrow part going into the wide part, or you could have the wide part going to the wide part, or you could have the point, the narrow part, the point going to the point. So there's all very different permutations of. So it's interesting that I've just done that, because what we were saying was missing on this is actually just that pattern with the same pattern on top of it. And that's the three lines then going horizontal. So it's the star on top of this, it's the triangle on top of the triangle, the Tesla code on top of the Tesla code, the mirrored reflection, which is the liminal space, the space between, the pause between the breath and the retention, that gives you your star Merkaba. It's all coming. And your star Merkaba, when you look into Nassim Haramein, it's your 64. I don't know if it's 64 side or 64 faces, or it's 64 something when you get into this, or 60 of something with the sacred geometry. And that goes back to the 1 hour, 4 minute video and whatever seconds that breaks down to 32. And when you double 32, it goes to 64. And 1 hour 4 is another way of writing 64. Wow. So we really have thoroughly enjoyed that free flow now of our tutorial. Thank you, everyone. So now we're just going to quickly talk through. You want all that gone? It's there. Tomo. Okay. No, we can't use that little one. It takes too long. We're tired. this was all got out ready and prepared for when we were going to go do our second live, because our second live was planned for to go on Shintos, but it ended up going on Joy to Coco. So none of this happened. But it turns out that this wasn't for Shintos, it's for now. Because future energies all kind of come in at once. So the ideas all come in at once. And that's where the planning kind of helps. But like in the academia, you plan. A good teacher to us is not the amount of knowledge one holds, it's the amount of different ways one can put that knowledge across to the individual, to the needs of the individual that's attempting to absorb that knowledge and gain comprehension of that knowledge. And a good teacher will also plan. We've got a strong teaching background from family to lots of people. We've been our father. We started a maths teaching degree, specialising, a secondary teaching mathematics degree, specialising in maths. We've done our yoga teacher training, which is Iyengar, one of the hardest in the world, which is a 2-year course, or it's just under a 2-year course. Is actually, like, it's not 2 years, is it? And we did that twice, so it's like a 4-year course, but because it's not quite 2 years, it worked out about 3 years and something. And so in the yoga teacher training, when you're up on the mat being the yoga teacher, you have to mirror everything. So when you say take your right arm or take your right leg, you're actually taking your left arm and your left leg. So you're really getting that whole thing that goes on with mirror speak, mirror talk, the liminal space, the illusion, the reflection is actually going on in a tangible way. And so that was really good for us from that perspective. So the flow, how long has it been? 2 hours. It's not too bad, actually. We did our breathing that we do to lengthen our breath in our different positions on our side. This morning we had, we sleep with our roller when we're in the kitchen, so we can put our leg up on the roller so you don't get the compression. Because with EDS, when you relax, everything just kind of collapses, especially when the muscle tone isn't there. And then we've got this other cushion which we put under our side waist. So let's see if we do this for now. Oh, we're going the wrong way because we moved the angle of the computer. So we've moved the computer that way, which means we have to go left. So we haven't got the picture within picture. You still can't really see. So in your side waist, below the rib cage, we'll have a cushion rolled up. And so when we're on our right-hand side, we've got the cushion underneath here. And as we're doing our breathing, the cushion will anchor the outer body in place so that the inner body and the fascia adhesions on the inner body can smoothly and softly, gently release and separate in a gradual time with the inhalation and the exhalation. And then we'll swap sides and our knee will be bent up on the roller. And then the more we get into our breath and deeper into our breath, the body will start moving itself. Now, if you're someone that's got a healthy body, I think this is the intuitive flow yoga teachers that don't plan the classes and they just do what's in the moment because they feel the collective energies of their class and their body is the filter, the host of that energy. That's why if we are someone doing something like this, we've got to be, we haven't got the word for that, but you've got to be integral, authentic, but also clear your own energies, because there's this dynamic energy flow going between where you're the filter, you're the funnel between their energy and the cosmic energies and the earthly energies, to bring this sense of union, because yoga is the yokin, it's the union between, in the conventional traditional, where your mind, your body and your spirit. We're not going to go down that avenue because it would go off on one for ages. So when you get into the flow of the breath and allow the inhalation and the exhalation to happen, which for us we couldn't do to start with, we've had to do little patterns like to get a full inhalation, breathe in through our nose, breathe in through our mouth, breathe in through our nose, pause, consciously pause, but not a holding rigid one, although that was how we started, because that's how we started with everything because of the certain things. And then exhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth, exhale through the nose. But sometimes we inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth, exhale through the nose, inhale through the nose. And sometimes there won't be a pause. Sometimes we'll do it circularly. And these are that just like kind of simply. but that meant we could almost get a bigger inhalation, because otherwise we couldn't, because of all the fascial adhesions and stuff that happened and took place after the seizures. But we were never able to get full inhalations before that either. And that goes back to we weren't ever asthmatic, but we couldn't do exercise out in the cold, and we had an inhaler and we'd get a really sore, tight chest. So we did that. We did the cushion. Then we went into like child pose, Adho Mukha Svanasana. No, Adho Mukha Svanasana's dog head down. So whatever the child pose is. And our ankles are starting to do stuff differently as well, which is why it's great that we've got our ankle supports on now and our knee supports on, because the knee supports create space behind the knees so they're not collapsing into each other. We have our lymph glands for the lymphatic system, which are part of the detoxifying of the body. And if they're not working properly, the immune system's not going to work properly. Up here, which we've got scar tissue from stretching our ear, that where we got a golf ball. So the scar tissue that goes on there, jaw operation here, the scar tissue, because we need, yes, this faulty healing, but these are all our gifts. So it is finally us sharing our message, but in a much more coherent way, in our roundabout type of way, without the victim consciousness emotion, or more accurately worded, with minimal victim consciousness emotion. And when the victim consciousness emotion comes up, we pass through it, we're aware in the moment, we speak through it, and we bring in the other ones of us that already have the narratives to understand it from all perspectives, doing it in the moment. Tito Mama, that's what we wanted. It is, isn't it? So right now it doesn't look like it, but we're really happy. But we tend to show the opposite on the outside of what's really good on the inside, because because there's still stuff coming out, and that's more of it coming out. We were very good at a poker face before. I don't know but we're going to get to what we were like before, but it's going to be conscious will and conscious understanding, so we'll be able to do it all whenever, whatever's needed. Magician and shapeshifter, yeah. It's a very strong galactic center, 27 degrees Sagittarius energies going on at the moment for quite a while, which is awesome, because if the galactic center is going on and you've got the macrocosm and the microcosm, then it's the perfect opportunity to get our center inside going on, which is just like, yeah. And then that center inside energy is getting connected and woven into, because we're on the mending and the repairing now, rather than the pulling apart and the deconstructing. We're on the reconstructing and repairing. And if that's going on and rewiring our intestines into that beautiful Celtic knot, then that then goes out, which is the Virgo energies, because the Virgo's intestines and the abdomen. And then and there's a parasympathetic nervous system again. Thank you, beautiful body. Thank you, heart. Thank you, minds. We love you all. We love us all. And that goes out to the most external body, that holds up the body, that once we get our backbone, our Capricorn energies, and can support our spine, which is why these lives are important, which we just talked about, because the lymph nodes and the toxins on the back of the knees, so they didn't collapse, because your groin, your armpits, your knees, your ankles, they all have the strong lymph nodes, and our knees have been a major problem, and that's why we started walking backwards to heal our knees. But we had to do the ankles first, and the ankles were always a problem. We always used to sprain them, because Aquarius rules the ankles, and we've got very strong energies in Aquarius. And when we've got very strong dominant energies in a certain part of the chart, that will mean that we're either in excess or deficient. So it means that you'll have really strong, healthy, good ankles, or probably really bad ankles. But we still want to develop our language, because we said that will mean, and that's just what it will mean from one perspective of where we are now with what's going on, because the multiverse, the quantum realms, the wave, and the universe, the Newtonian physics realms we call it, and the particle, the atom, is infinite. It's actually more the wave and the multiverse that's infinite, and the universe that, and that's your division and your multiplication, because when you do division and multiplication, it's infinite boundaries. No, it's infinite. You got some more words, isn't it? Please, no more. When you add expansion, when you contract, subtraction, minus, different words, same thing. When you divide, that's like minus, that's contraction. That's infinite contraction. And when you multiply, it's infinite expansion. But you've got infinite expansion and infinite contraction with boundaries or without boundaries. And how strong the boundaries are depends whether it's like 8 divided by 4. So when you got D48 yesterday, the leaf shade. Okay, I think I'm with you. Can I take over for you? Yeah, it's hard work, isn't it? So with leaf shade, that's number 48. So with us, we showed you how we do the, we're going to have to do this again, aren't we? The axes. So that axis is titled your addition, and that's your plus, and that's your minus. This axis is your subtraction or your minus, and that's your plus, and that's your minus. Now they're pretty set and they're pretty easy. And in the tarot realms or in the numerology realms, we tend to stick, if we write it in here, addition is expansion. We're going to just do this again. Addition is expansion. Subtraction minus is contraction. Can't really see the words, I really apologize. Contraction is your Saturn energies. Expansion is your Jupiter archetypal energies. And you have your positive and your minus. And in the tarot world, one tends to focus on the expansion only. And so you go, oh, we've got 12, therefore 12 adds up to a 3. We've got 48, 48 adds up to a 12, which adds up to a 3. That's an important number. That's the number of the day. 3 is the start of the Tesla code. 3 means that when one is able to embrace being poor and being happy while being poor and while having minimal, then that is the basis of a good fundamental foundation that's strong, balanced, and flexible. So therefore it can navigate typhoons, the water, hurricanes, because you need to have a bit of movement. You need to be like tree. That's the poplar tree. The poplar tree leaf shade yesterday comes from a tree. Oh, this is beautiful. Thank you. So if we've got the 48 in tarot world, adds up to 12, but you need to balance it out. So you've got to get in the subtraction as well. So 8 minus 4 is 4. So we've got a spectrum between 4 and 12. But for us, and this is why we talked about the twists and yoga and the intestines in the body, because our body kind of knows all this, but our body can't do it until the mind catches up because of the gut brain connection. And of course, we anchored in our heart brain connection first in this box opening video the other day. And we've been working on the most important, which has come easiest. It's not that we consciously worked on it, it's just what flowed. That our internal hygiene of our gut biome was the most important. And when our bacteria could all dance in a harmonic resonance together in a symbiotic relationship, then the rest of the stuff would happen easily. And a lot of this that's happening, although we haven't done it today, but we're going to do it afterwards, then our self-care and our external nurturing will flow easier because our internal nurturing and self-care to the microcosm's happening. I mean, these are really happy tears. It's paying off. It's all paying off. Finally, the daily NCDs that going round at the moment, it's the big finale. It's completion. We've done that completion, haven't we, on the chakra card, and we're aligned with the seasons, the shamanic nature, Mother Earth's energies, and the cosmic energies, like we always have been. We just haven't been collectively, consciously aware of that. And that's why our chakra journey is matching up to it all. And that's why everything that we're doing is matching up for us, but it's going to help anyone else out there as well that is naturally like that. And we're doing it for all of us in here. All of us in here is like the collective of everyone out there is what we feel. And the last, so we haven't started it yet, but we will after this as well. probably after the shower, but we don't know. Tito Pomomo. Yeah, we've got Monday and Tuesday to do because it's Tuesday today, isn't it? So this week was the first week of yellow chakras. It's week 16, rebirth, 16 mirrored as 61, 61 is self-love. And the first, it's the title of miracles. I don't know what the fable is for it, but the fable for the last orange chakra, which is the orange purple, was completion. We haven't done day 5, we haven't done the Friday, which is the meditation of that yet. We did, I think, read the meditation for the previous one, so orange and indigo, but it seems to be that sometimes we do a few together. So on this Friday, we will do the miracle. So we're on yellow red, basically. We're on the first chakra of the yellow chakra. So it's the chakra colours, the rainbow colours within a set colour. So we're starting yellow this week. We'll have 7 weeks of yellow, and we're on the red. We're on the first week. So on Friday, it will be the red within the yellow red, with the orange violet and the orange indigo for the meditation that we do. And so going back to this, we also then need the multiplication. That's the positive, this is the negative, and the division. So you've got your x-axis, your y-axis, your a-axis, and your b-axis. And that's your positive, and that's your negative. And this is the vacuum of equilibrium. That's your naught and all of it. That's the center of the void, the center of the vortex, zero gravity, the center of the black hole, the center of the ball on the axes, the center of each spinning vortex, each spinning ball, each spinning sphere, each chakra spinning wheel of in the body, but all of them aligned, as much aligned as possible, and all of the dimensions, your sagittarial plane, your medial plane, your transverse plane, so the one that splits the body from left and right, the one that splits the body from front and back, and the one that splits the body from top and bottom. And you've got 3 main points of this again, which would bring in the Chinese medicine philosophy, which is your Dantian, your lower Dantian, and your upper Dantian. Which is why you need the triangulation that we were going on about, to when you get the triangulation of the phone mast to get the phone location, you need the triangulations of each one to get to that center point. A center point isn't just one. A center point is the center point, which appears illusionary as one of a 3-point from a 2D perspective, or you got 3D perspective would be your tetrahedron, which is your tetrahedron is a 4 base, so that would be a 5-point, hence why the 5 comes in to be important. And we're in the change of 5 at the moment, because 2023 is 3 on the micro, 5 on the shorthand or the small picture, 5 on the big picture, 55 is the number of adventure, and it's 7 on the macro. And what really got us going the other day is when we scheduled, because we're doing it every Friday at 17:30, because 17:30, 17, if you just do it simply on the addition, it's 8, and 8 plus 3 is 11. So our new chosen legal name of Zanoni Snowflake Pasau is a vibration of 11. It's the master number of service. It's the number of individuality, and 11 is the 2 lines going down of your Sushumna down the central channel. Your 8 is where you had the other lines around the outside, your figure of 8 pattern. So this is how the numbers for us, with what's going on for us, links into the unseen energetics, which we now bring into the tangible world. And like, you'll watch your Tesla videos or other videos, and they'll give you all the dates of births and the years certain things happened. They can bring in the astrology where you've got that number synchronization going on between it all. And when we looked at our dates, this coming Friday, I'm guessing is the 7th, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. Yes, 7th of July, 7/7. So 7th of July, 7/7, we're working with macro energies, because the macro is a 7. The next week is the 14th, Is that how it works, or do you have to minus 1? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It's the 14th. 14 adds up with a 5. So you're actually working with the big picture and the small picture together, which for us is the connection into the external society, because in the external society, or the collective of the objective collective, because it's the collective consciousness of humanity, you tend to write the date as 2023 or 23. You don't do 0, 2, 3 or 3 on its own. So connecting the big picture and the small picture with your 5, which is the year that we're in at the moment, we've got the 0 for the whole of the 100 years, is just like, it's important. And then you've got the micro of the 3, and that's the 21st. So our last one, back onto this channel again, because next week we think, we don't know, this Friday Shintos, we think it could be Shintosai, but we think Shintos, and then it'll be Shintosai, and then we'll be on to the 21st, so it'll be the 7th, the 14th, then we'll be on the 21st of July, which will be back on, oh, it's gone again, which will be back onto here. And the 21st of July is 373. So you can, so you've got the micro. So you've got 777, 575, and 373. There we go. The picture went off again. And so this brings us into the number patterning that's happening. Oh, okay. I'm so glad we did this. So this Friday, 777, next Friday, 575, the following Friday, 373. And lo and behold, when we go back to last Friday, when we did the last one, it was the 30th of June, which is 3-6. So you could do again 3-6-3. So for us, you read from the center outwards. You don't read from the left to the right, which is like Westerners read. You don't read back to front, as we'd call it, but as the Japanese read, and I think Chinese is down to up, isn't down up to down. It could be from down to up, but I think it's up to down. Japanese is from right to left. So for us, it's about being in the center, and you then go out whichever way. And so 363, it doesn't follow, it's the same pattern, 363, but if you add it together, you get 66. We're at house number 66. 66 is the number of healing, and 6 added to 6 is 12, complex stability in the tangible seen masculine world. So we see that as emperor energies. Your 13 we see as Hierophant energies. It's your feminine energies in the type, which is, ironic, but it's your 13 moon cycles. So you've got your 12 and your 13, which is the masculine and the feminine of the tangible seen world. And then you have your 64, which is your masculine, which we were just talking about with the star tetrahedron. And then we haven't really found the feminine on that one, though, but I think the feminine on that one is just like whatever, expansive. It includes it all. You can't put a number to it, or maybe you can, but it's a set of numbers. We'd have to get more into our sacred geometry, which I'm hoping is going to happen soon. But 66 added together equals 3. So these 5 lives that we're doing on this process that we're doing to connect ourselves starts on a 3 and ends on a 3 when you add it together. But admittedly, on the one at the end, it's 373. And when you add that together, that's a 6 plus a 7, which is a 13. Oh, so it does end on a 3. It just ends on a multiplication 3 or a division 3, because 3 divided by 1 is 3, and 3 times by 1 is 3, which is your infinite expansion and your infinite contraction, aligning, so the equilibrium and the balance and the minimal oscillation between your Jupiter archetypal energies and your Saturn archetypal energies. So yeah, you do start on a 3 and you end on a 3. It's an expansive starting 3, an addition starting 3, and an ending on an infinite contraction and an infinite expansion, multiplication and division, with boundaries, because it's a whole integer. And that's where your teen numbers 10 to 19 are really, or your 11 to 19 are really important numbers because your division and your multiplication are exactly the same. And that's probably where prime numbers then come into it down the line as well. Oh, this is going to get exciting because it's bringing our maths back in. But this time we've got maths abstract and maths logical. Okay, so we're going to go back to us again, and we're almost done. We don't, mind you, we're just doing what we're doing, and that's it, and that's okay. Okay. But we need to wash up today, okay? Even if it's just a little bit, we need to do some washing up. Yeah, and we'll have a shower and do some washing up. Yeah. We love this now because you can't. I don't know if you can see it on there, but we've rubbed it out. But you've got the mess from before. The mess. The message is in the mess. But then where the new drawings we did on top of the old drawings, when we rubbed it out, you can see the white lines. Except you can't. But you can see our new beautiful lampshade that we got from Bali actually years ago. That was in the bedroom that we put up in here to stop the glare, but it hasn't really worked. And breathe. So this morning we did our breathing. We got up and our little ones did their filming because it's them filming at the moment. We've got to shift our knee. It's them filming at the moment, and we can shift easily. We're getting confused. Oh, look, you can probably see our headscarf in here. Look, there it is. Oh, yeah, we were saying about that, weren't we, that we didn't finish. So when we had the injection, we had the maximum dose of anaesthetic, and they didn't believe us, like they never believe us. No one's ever believed us. We could still, when they did the injection, we could feel the little trickles going in between all the different wormy brain bits, it going down, and then we could feel the needle squeaking through the skull on every stitch. And so that was one of the major. There was a few before that, but that was the major thing that's made us traumatic PTSD on top of the PTSD in the hospitals. And then there's when we overdosed, but there we go. So we then got up and did our filming, which actually happened quite simply and quite easily. And 3 cards came out, and there was a very immediate glimpse of going like, no, we want one. But the one of us that was going to say that was, we want one. We want to keep it simple because we want to stick to our pattern. We want to stick to our routine because that's easier for us to handle. But 3 came out, and it's like, nope, we're having 3. And so we turned them over. And this one's come out a few times. Just get the, it's hard work because you've got to do that mirroring thing again. So it was Baroque that came out, number 18. Begin, popular tree. And so yesterday we did words. Today, you see, it's about numbers. Ger, if it's pronounced that way. 12, which is year and harvest. Oh, you can see that we're struggling having to put it forward and back when we do that because you've got the little picture. We forgot about that. So it's our yoga teacher skill coming back. And you've got leech, emotional bleed, number 72. So what have we got there? Tita Mama. 9, 3, 9. And whenever you've got a 9, 9s always add up to 9s. So basically you can cancel the 9s out and you'll end up with 3. And so 3 is the magical number for today's the Fruma Healing Oracle card. But then, so we were like, okay, well, we want to read a bit. We want to get our legs up. And we want to read. And we're going to have to stop soon because I could feel the blood circulation kind of going, because all the energy is going down. We're now starting to feel where like kind of it feels like the blood's getting cut off. So we may have to get our legs up actually and read after we've done this to counterflow the energy. But these are good because they're long periods of time where we're completely immersed in flow state rather than constantly consciously attempting to breathe and change patterns, because we're at the stage now where we've reprogrammed our so we've done the majority of the reprogramming of our subconscious through the modalities of our breath and our body and our habitual patterns, because it was over decades ago we'd start cleaning our teeth with the opposite hand and shutting doors with the opposite hand, etc. And now the idea is to turn that subconscious reprogramming through the breath and the body habitual patterning and our yoga and asanas into, because what we were talking before with the internal hygiene and our food and the gut biome, That's your niyamas. That's the second limb of yoga. The external hygiene and self-care and the washing on the body, that would be your yamas, the first limb of yoga. Your asanas. Your asanas are the third limb of yoga. 3 is yellow, the solar plexus, the diaphragm. And we're no more. We're not on yellow, are we? Our yellow Shintosai that's going to come, isn't it? But we can't necessarily. But we think Shintosai is going to. We think Shintos is going to come next. But then we're just starting the yellow on the chakra journey, and we can't embody the higher vibrations fully. So we have to do the oscillation of the seesaw. So we are embracing yellow energies through this channel of green and orange. Are we going back onto orange again now? Yeah, Tita Momo. Okay. We are so Fruit Loop. We're such a fun Fruit Loop. There we go. Okay. Through the green and the orange, because green and orange, green is the fourth chakra above yellow, orange is the second chakra below yellow. Yellow and red make orange in the primary color system perspective system. I said that twice. 4 is the fourth limb of yoga, which is pranayama, rhythmic breath control. Okay, so this morning it was just kind of like we couldn't talk. There were no words. Whatever altar we were in, there was no words. We couldn't talk. So we did this, and we were trying to get out because these cards can overwhelm us. There's so much information in them. And when we get overwhelmed, we can go into shutdown. And when we go into shutdown, we have to do what we need to do, whatever that is, to bring us out of going into shutdown, which this morning happened to be this live, which I'm so glad we did. But the process, but the process to get us to doing this live is because it's also we forgot, didn't we? Okay, so before we did the cards and the video, and then it's like, right, we've got the camera, the mobile phone out, we're videoing, we've got our light, round circular light set up. One of us wanted to do colouring in, so we could do a time lapse. I think that's what it is, a speeded up time lapse of a short of colouring in. So we did some colouring in with our felt tip markers, which normally don't look very good. And we got all the cards because we were going to do it with all the cards because we are complex, and that's what we've said at the start of each of our lives and the last 2 lives. But each time we've done even the first live we did, this one was less complex than the one at Christmas, and last Friday's was less complex than the Friday before. So we're dancing our way to simplicity, but we didn't quite manage it on our words. But we're here now doing this first, so hopefully on Friday, if we do repeat that thing of saying we're starting complex again, in the moment we'll be able to change our wording again. Because one of the hardest things isn't waking up from our denials. One of the hardest things is being aware, awake, in the moment, being the person, doing the thing, saying the thing we don't want to be. And it's hard doing that. So sometimes it's better to go back to sleep, which would bring in our comment to Everlong Mystic, to Eve on her channel again, about wanting to delete it again, because we don't want to fully purge it out from whichever sense, whether it's automatic writing, which is automatic typing with our right thumb. And when we notice we're going too fast on our right thumb because the energy is building up, we'll start typing with our left thumb. It's really slow. But it slows everything right down again. And we know that from the seizures, because in the seizures, after the seizures and some of the personalities, we were writing with our left hand backwards, because we were rewiring, we were repatterning, we were doing the opposite of the habitual patterning. Hence why walking backwards is healing our knees, which our body taught us. But of course we weren't going to go out into the world and walk backwards. Everyone thinks we're a nutter anyway. But then we saw a YouTube video on it. And of course, okay, we saw a YouTube video on it. We'll challenge ourselves. We'll walk to the willow tree. It's not very far, and we'll walk backwards every day. And then we've started doing a loop, which involves 4 steps up or 4 steps down. And we sometimes do that, although we've not done it for a while, so it's intermittent. But our bribe to get the ones of us that need those tangible seen results is we'll take a photo of the willow tree at the end, so that we've got a year's time lapse, although we won't quite have a year's time lapse. Tita or Mama, yeah, and this came to us the other day inside, didn't it? But that's just like that's what one might call the 7 of Swords. Is it the 7 of Swords? The deceitful one of us, the trickery, the coyote, because we had to give the ones of us that wanted that medium-term gratification, let's say a year's medium-term gratification, where we've got a time lapse of a year of the willow tree from walking backwards every day. But of course, we don't manage to do everything every day for that, which kind of upsets that one then, because they haven't got that perfectionism in it. So we're learning to release the perfectionism. But this is the way we're documenting ourselves. We're documenting ourselves through our screenshots, through our photos, and we will have that time lapse at the end. But the aim of the story or the narrative behind the time lapse of the willow tree for a year, from season to season, doing it every day, wasn't every day, because the narrative behind it was a carrot in front of the horse. It was the bribe, it was the teaser to get us to do it, because these little ones and these strong ones inside us can be hard work to, you know, get them to do things, especially when there's physical pain or other kinds of pains involved. So rather than the 3 cards, because that brought out all the colours we had in our markers, we brought out this card and we just did it like this. So there'll be a short going up on our Shinto's channel of us colouring in this. And that's important, because not just because it's mindfulness, it's colouring in. It's, again, if you go back to some of our videos on there before, they're focus exercise videos with the tarot cards. This is a focus exercise video, but we're colouring in. And it's important because when we're there and we're colouring in, it's hurting our body. We weren't in the ones of us that were aware to put on our ankle supports, to put on our knee supports, to put on our pelvis support, so that when we're sitting in one state, because our body doesn't have the muscle tone to be able to do it, because we've been doing all the structural realignment of the body, it needs the support to hold it in. And then we're getting like neck cramps and arm cramps, but it's for small periods of time. And then we're doing things like this afterwards, and then we'll put our legs up and we're eating good food. And we got chicken in our last, grass-fed chicken from our Real Food box in our last shop. But we're not going to go into the yoga and the veganism and the food stuff now. I think we did a bit earlier, but it'll take us off on one. So that's going to be great, because that takes in the focused exercise. And for us, people say, like, shift the energy, go out for a walk when you're on these self-development things or the tarot readers. But it's like, some people can't do that. What are they meant to do? And so we would say, sit there and attempt to colour in for a little bit. You know, we want to give examples that include everyone, basically, because sitting there and colouring that in for an hour for our body was hard work. But the more we do this tiny little thing that most people take for granted, we're going to develop our muscle tone internal, and it's going to come out more and more. And then with our breath work, and it's shifting our body, because when we went into child pose earlier, after doing our breath work on the sides, which we naturally went into, we didn't consciously think about going into it, which is what our breath does for us. We then ended up, and we do things like we cross over our hands and do all kinds of like yoga mudras and stuff. We then ended up with the roller underneath this side of us, supporting our displaced collarbone, which is why we have that weird information in our description box, because all of it has a narrative and a story and a point behind it. We're just not quite able to put it into words yet, or get it out there in the way that others would understand. But it's meant to be like that. It's meant to be like that, because if we could, our physical body wouldn't be ready for what's going to come back. And we're so aligned between all our chakra bodies, between all our chakra energies, between all our personalities, that we have to do things in the way we've done it, because there's going to be some moment when something happens and it's going to be pretty big. And I know ones of us have seen that, and you can see the reaction we get when that happens. But this reaction won't be quite so fluid or transparent when it happens, because we'd have done all these simple little exercises like this to tone up from the inside outwards. Because that what our video on the salad the other day was, on muscle building, wasn't it? It was, wasn't it? And we learned from that, didn't we, how the video didn't go with the title. So we did the time lapse of the colouring in video. We then started to speed up on our phone, because all the editing's happening on our phone at the moment, which is hard. It can only speed up like twice as fast, and then you have to stop, and then twice as fast. And that's where the 104 came into play. So we were doing this. So that was our morning's things, which is great, because then we've got the short for Zanoni Snowflake, we've got the short for Shintos, and then we're doing the numbers, and then having to manage dialogue inside ones of us that it's okay that we haven't got words like yesterday, and we don't need to have words, and just let us do what we're doing. And so we let us do what we're doing, and we came up with the numbers. This was addition. Oh, you can't see it now, can you? There we go. You can see that, can't you, Just? So this was the addition line between these numbers. We'll just put these numbers here. Hopefully you can see them a bit better there. So that's the 8, that's the 12, and that's the 72. So that's the addition line. Then we'll do the subtraction, and then we'll do one of the others. So the subtraction, to get the balance of that oscillation between the push and the pull of the magnet, between the Jupiter and Saturn energies, between the only constant in life is change, is the vibration of the atom, is that flow state where we're constantly having to go back and forth, which the only reason we've been able to comprehend that is because that's what's been going on in our bodies, between the synergist muscles of the activating muscle and the stretching muscle, which we're only able to fully really understand because of the one of us that's pictorial, but not pictorial from an inside, but pictorial from an outside. Hence why we have to keep doing all these different sensory systems, constructive feedback loop of information, energy out of the senses, in of the senses, in of the senses, out of the senses, or energy in of the senses, out of the senses, out of the senses, in of the senses, because there's a whole patternology in that as well, but we're not getting into that. But we've got all of our yoga books, which you look at the picture of the body, and you have red for the contracting muscle that's happening in that asana, that yoga pose, and you have blue for the expanding, extension, stretching muscle. And then you have a different shade of the blue. So the bolder, stronger blue is the muscles that are really stretching in that pose. So the primary muscles, I suppose, and then the secondary muscles that are stretching in that pose would be a lighter shade of blue, and the same for the activating, a bold red and a lesser red. So you take these numbers away and you end up with plus or minus 7, plus or minus 1, and plus or minus 5. So as soon as you take it away, you're actually dealing with two numbers. You're dealing with a duality. You're dealing with the positive and the negative. So automatically, for us, it would make more sense, rather than from a numerology perspective of the traditional, whatever sin it is in the Bible, of gluttonous, is it? Greed, wanting the bigger thing, numerology being expansion. We would look at 18 and would say 9. For us, it would be better to look at 18 and say 7, because for us to really take healthy steps forward, to really dance smoothly forward, you need to pull the bow, the Centaurion's bow, Sagittarius, the human on the horse from the shop. Our special and power animal is a sea unices, and the sea unices is a seahorse, a unicorn, a Pegasus, and a horse. Then Pegasus was our van in New Zealand, which we named from the number plates, isn't it? Yeah, and Yinny was our name of our van here. Thank you for sharing. So yeah, you pull the arrow back before the arrow can go forward to the bullseye of the target. Hopefully the target being an archery target. But for us, we do believe that if we are going to eat meat, we believe in doing it in the old-fashioned way. If one's going to eat meat, one has to understand the process it takes to getting to eat that meat. And so technically it'd be one, if you want to eat chicken, then kill that chicken. If you want to eat deer, then kill that deer, and almost not with a gun either, like with your hands, because then you really understand and you really appreciate life, and you really understand and you really appreciate taking life. But we don't quite mean that how it sounds. So we're going back into our Tom Brown and our trackers and our Native American Indian tribal stuff now, and our Maori stuff. And life is precious. And the Native American Indian philosophy is that if you're going to take an animal and you're going to eat it, you pass you do a blessing. I'm getting shivery tingles now. You do a blessing, you take that life with comprehension of why you're taking that life, and you even commune and ask which life to take, which would be, if you've got a herd of animals, it would be the animal that is the weakest. And that's where you've got humanity basing certain humanitarian philosophies on concepts like that. But it's different. But we're not going to get into that even now. Okay. So you use the bones, you use the skin, you eat every part of the animal. There is absolutely zero waste. And that's what we mean when we say that. There's a consciousness, an awareness that goes into every act of being and every act of doing, where there is a being first, there is a contraction, an implosion, before there's an expansion or an explosion, preferably an expansion and a contraction rather than an explosion and implosion, because an explosion and implosion are sudden. They're Uranus energies. And that's what's so beautiful that's happening at the moment is Uranus is our Scorpio in house 4. Our house 4 is Scorpio and Sagittarius, which we've talked about a bit in this already. House 4 for us is when the traumas mainly happened. So our 4 vibration isn't healthily structural. It doesn't have that. It doesn't have the structural integrity of flexibility, strength, and balance. It doesn't have the emperor qualities. And our Venus that we talked about before in our house 8 is the collective static energies, traditional home of Scorpio, the death and the rebirth. And Uranus at the moment is up with Taurus. And Taurus, I'm not sure if the nodal shifts have happened or if they're going to happen between now and the mid-month. But the nodal shift from Taurus Scorpio to Aries Libra is imminent. And that for us is all in house 9, and house 9 is the collective home of Sagittarius. So what's also coming to us now is to bring in the Vedic astrology. So with Vedic astrology, let's keep it simple and do it with your sun sign. Most people's sun sign will be the one before. So if you're an Aquarius sun, your sun sign will then become a Capricorn. Now for us, we're an Aquarius sun and in Vedic and Western astrology. Our cusp changes from a Pisces Aquarius cusp to a Capricorn Aquarius cusp, but it's the same energetics. Our Aquarius sun is 26 degrees. Our Aquarius moon is 17 degrees. So 17 is the number of Aquarius in the tarot. 26 is a number that's been coming up again lots lately as well. I think we went into that on the other video the other day, where this Monday just gone, no, last Monday, a week Monday just gone, was the 26th of June. And we did our live at Christmas on the Monday, and it was Monday the 26th of June, and our live at Christmas was Monday the 26th of December, and there were 26 weeks between that. So this is where numbers come into us, and these are the signs and the synchronicities and the harmonic alignment. This is what gives us our external validation of that harmonic alignment. So the contraction, that's the feed. So therefore, comparison for us, like we say about the importance of the higher self, the spirit guides, whatever energies you want to call that, that perceived external validation, which for us it's all internal validation. It just comes from a perceived external projection validation, because the current belief systems that are going on can't quite handle the reprogramming that needs to take place first. So for us, our heart is Aries, but in Vedic astrology it's a Taurus. For us, our Chiron, which is like the wounded healer that one has to swim through the void to get to the spiritual goddess or the spiritual warrior, is in the higher learning of spirituality in house 9, is Taurus, but it goes to an Aries. Taurus goes to an Aries, Aries goes to Pisces in the heart. So I don't know if we said that, but for us, Aries is you get what I mean? It's impulsive, it's reactive, instinctual. So our heart going from a Venus, Aries and Western to a Pisces, Venus in Vedic is hugely important, because it means that our impulsive, reactive, kind of trauma state child parts of us have then become more mutable and more adaptable and more open to change. And Pisces is our mind. In Mercury And so that all interlinks because we think a mind is the mind and every single expression of the bacteria that makes up the bacterial community, that makes up the cell, that makes up the cellular community, which we've talked about earlier with the cell. So we're going to leave. Oh, and that's also what's really important, of course it is, because our Capricorn moon changes. So we're 26 Sun Aquarius, 17 Moon Aquarius. They're both the 8 vibration, but our 17 Moon Aquarius goes into a Capricorn Aquarius. So rather than having an Aquarius fast, vibratory outer body of the sun and the self, sense of self, and an Aquarius faster vibration internal moon, feminine and masculine, which are great, it aligns, but oh, it's a lot of air. We've got, and it's a mutable air because they're up the Pisces end in Vedic astrology. So we're going from the modern to the traditional, and it's not about one or the other for us. It's about the alchemization, the integration, and the harmonization of, we need our traditions, but we need our modernness. We need it both, and we need to find that ebb and flow and that dance between the two. And so going from an Aquarius Pisces sun to an Aquarius Capricorn sun means rather than having a mutable air, we've got a cardinal air. So there's a new understanding, a new beginning of, it keeps going into the Matrix screensaver. We've got the new beginning of our sense of self, our sun, our external body. And as we were saying earlier, the more we get the muscle tone from the internal posture to the external posture, we'll then be able to handle the influx of energy that kind of comes in for what's ahead of us that we don't go into because it sends us into chaos. And when we've got that Capricorn moon, it means our feminine, our moon of the faster vibration of air has become a lot more stable. So air is a masculine sign as well. So rather than it being feminine, masculine, we've gone into Capricorn, which is feminine, feminine, but it's a stable feminine, feminine. So we've not got that fast, volatile internal state going on so much. So the energies that are going on at the moment for us are just like mind blowing, mind blowing, mind blowing, but with such a sense of balance between the extremities of those oscillations of archetypal Jupiter and archetypal Saturn energies. So the contraction for us is more important than the expansion because you have that spectrum. And of course, the plus and minus 1, which comes from the 12, we feel is really important because it's only 1 unit away from 0 on each side. So that's really close to 0. And that's, you know, the golden ratio is 1.618 ish or something, and the inverse is 0.618 ish. And so then we'll go so you've got your addition first. We say it would be contraction first, then addition. You don't want to then expand outwards even more. It's like, you know, take 1 step back and 2 steps forward, 1 step back and 2 steps forward. So therefore we'd want to go into the infinite contraction. Whether the infinite contraction has boundaries or not depends on what comes out of that. So here it would be 8 divided by 1, which is 8. And we were just talking about the inverse of the Fibonacci, the golden ratio. So you've actually got 8 and you've got 1/8. And we've worked this one out here. So 1/8. Oh, okay. We've worked this out in our head, so it could be wrong. 1/8 is a decimal point of 0.125. That's what 1/8 is. On this one, you have 2, or you have a half, and a half is the equivalent of 0.5. So if you were seen with us early on the 2023, 23 is the small picture, the shorthand, which equals 5, and the small picture and the big picture, 023, is also a 5, and 55 is adventure. It's a double dose of change. Change brings freedom. Changing up those habitual patterns, whether it's in the boff, feed the way. Yeah, it can be in a bath, and if you've got a tin bath and you're doing sounding, it's amazing. whether it's in the body or the breath or the mind. But when you're someone like us with our minds, it's not so easy to change it in the mind. The change in the mind has to happen from the body because of the dissociation and the fragmentation. And then you've got 7/2, So you've got, we're on the division. So you've got 7 divided by 2, which is 3.5. So you've got another 5 here, but you've also got the 3 again. So you start seeing the numbers that are coming up. We've got 9, 3, 9 on first tier addition. First tier subtraction, you've got 7, plus or minus 7, plus or minus 1, plus or minus 5. And then here we've got like an 8. We've got 0.125. So we've got the 1 again here, 1, 2 from the 12 up here of the Gare card, and the 5 that's happening here in the half of the 2, 1 divided by 2. And together that equals the 8. So it brings you back round to this 8 here. And we can't express it yet, but we can feel the ones of us that know this in the patterning, that rather than starting with colouring in on simple stuff like this, we're going to get onto our sacred geometry and we're going to be able to show all of this in pattern. So it's like using the cards as the transformative tools to give you the numbers that can then give you these amazing, beautiful patterns, which is going into your cinematography. It's not cinematography. You know, where you play the music, you play the sound frequency through the magnetic plate with the sand on it, and that will give you the visual pattern of the sound that you're hearing. So it's kind of something along those lines, but we're still accessing it and putting it together. And when we're able to do that will be when we're a lot more together. That's why it's exciting. And then you've got so 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. No, we're not on multiplication yet. Okay, sorry. Dito more. Well, that's why, because we keep expanding much and we've got to bring ourselves back. And that's why we've written it down and it reads Dito more. Exactly. So 2 over 7. Okay, so we haven't done this on the calculator yet, but we've worked it out in our head. And it's between a quarter, 2.5. This is 2 over 7. And 0.3 recurring, which is a third, which we've put a dot on the top, but that's not how it's done these days. It's done, I think it might be done like a line, but we've got to figure that one out. And we can't tell you what that is. Well, we could tell you what that is, and we might do that in a moment. But then if you do the multiplication, 1 times 8 and 8 times 1 is the same again, which is 8. So it's on the addition, the expansion is always single digits. It's only the contraction, the subtraction minus, and which ends up with a plus or minus, normally of a whole number. But then the division will end up with a whole number, a bit of a number that's got like to 3, 4 decimal places, anywhere from 1 to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 decimal places. But if it just keeps on going, then it is true infinite contraction without boundaries. 1 times 2 is 2. The good bit's coming in a minute. And 7 times 2 is 14. And then if you're just to stay simple on the conventional understanding, because we don't want to go too deep, because we want to be finaleing this up, 4 and 1 plus 1 is a 5. So you've got that 5 number again. That's been coming up. And that's all that we get from 18, 12 and 72 of the Lafruma cards of the day. And because, oh, you know more, that's good. We were able to stand up this time. We had to crawl last time we got up. We can't quite stand up. That's okay. Don't show them your crack though. We're in Hunchback of Notre Dame. There's stuff going on with our spine. Of course, there's stuff going on with our spine after that beginning part of the tutorial. This is like a tutorial, isn't it? It is, isn't it? If we'd planned this, we'd have got so stressed and everything. And then this is, we're loving this. Okay, so we're gonna, no, it's 2 o'clock. How did that happen? This is awesome, because you know what that means. Cindy, so at the moment, we've managed to get this colouring in picture, because it's taken ages. That's the colouring in picture there. You can't quite see, but if we were to put it on, you can kind of see it there happening. It's on 8 minutes 2 seconds, which means it was then 16 minutes 4 seconds, 32:08. So we were right. It was 1 hour 4 minutes, 64 minutes and 16. Oh, that's amazing. And 10, 64, karmic completion, or the 1. If you do it as the 10, 64, karmic completion, and 16, completion in our rebirth process. Okay. completion, karmic completion in the unseen, tangible realms of our rebirth process. And if you take it as the 1 hour, 4 minutes, 16, you've got the 1, which is a new beginning. So it's a new beginning in the progress of the stability, structural stability of our rebirth process. Okay. Oh, so we're just doing. Oh, so that's what we were going to say. So basically, our little uns are kind of addicted to Cindy, and we think it's because of the grey hair and the Aries sun, because our mum was an Aries sun, and we also had a really good friend that we were really connected through before all this process, who was an Aries with grey hair. And we learned lots from her mistakes and stuff as well. But I knew we'd slowly end up coming off her, but it had to be in our little one's own time. So stuff like this now is getting our little ones to come off her, because her videos normally come out at 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock, you see. So that's why now we've actually done our own stuff over that time instead, which is just amazing. So we're doing 2 divided by 7, which, so there's our infinite contraction without boundaries. It's literally infinite contraction because it's 0.2857. Oh my God, no, this happened the other day, didn't it? This is like, it is an infinite contraction without boundaries because the number goes on, but it's a special number that goes on. And that's why 72 and 27, so 27 degrees. That's what your galactic center is at the moment, I think. I think that's 27 degrees. The top of Maman. And of course, when you times 2 with the 7, that's the 14, which is the temperance card. And our video was 1 hour and 4 minutes and 16 seconds. But I don't know if you can see that. The number pattern is 285714. And we reckon that would be 285714 recurring. So if we were to scribble out all this, it's what we're saying in this moment, a really special number, because it's a infinite contraction because it doesn't have any boundaries. It goes on forever, but it's an infinite contraction with order in the chaos because it's a repetition of 285714. And why that's beautiful is we don't know what 28 means in like good number in our way we do things, but 28 is the house number we got picked up naked outside before we went to the psych ward. 57 is teaching and learning, and we're all about sharing the energetics to others so that others can become their own teacher and student, where we don't dictate to them how to do things. We share what we do and hope that certain stuff will resonate, and they'll learn then and take what helps them to become their own teacher and student, because the best teacher is the student. So if we're our own teacher and our own student, and the most powerful things, or the most empowering thing, is to understand how we learn. And 14 is the temperance card, the Sagittarius card again. So you'll be able to notice all these different entwining energetics that have gone on just from the numbers. And so that's what we got this morning from the numbers. But what even then got better is, it was like, well, what are these numbers telling us? And what these numbers told us was what our next short is going to be on our Joy to Coco channel. And we just did the Joy to Coco Lafruma Healing Oracle video, which involved our tuning forks. And what came out of these numbers were specific numbers that related to the tuning forks. And because we've been using this for ages, and there's the ones of us that remember through numbers, what came out first of all for us on the tuning forks, what came out first of all? I don't think what came out first of all is what we're going to say, but actually I think it is what we're going to say. No, it wasn't. This was what came out first of all. What came out first of all was we didn't remember the number, but one of us remembered the number, which communicated a feeling to another one of us, which led us to the sharps tuning forks. Now the sharps are, when you've got a piano, the sharps are the black keys on the piano. So on the piano, the white keys, C, D, E, F, A, B, your 7 keys, your 7 chakras from one perspective, your root, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. A being your indigo, your third eye, B being your crown chakra, C being your root, red, D being your sacral, orange, E being your solar plexus, yellow, F being your green, your heart, and blue being your throat chakra. So for us, what came up is you have, because we said that 3 was the number here that was standing out on the first row of addition. What came out, if we can get this up here, I don't know if we can get that to focus. It's basically D sharp 300 hertz. 300 hertz, D sharp. There we go. You can kind of see it there. So that's the number that came out first. So that's your black key, your D sharp, connecting your D and your E. But we hadn't made that jump yet. It was just D sharp that came out for us. And then the number patterning followed on to the solfeggio frequency set. And that's why we've got this. So the solfeggio frequency set, the solfeggio is a very sacred set of numbers. And so 174 hertz is used for pain, physical, mental, emotional, and karmic. 285 hertz is used for wounds, physical, mental, emotional, and karmic. 396 hertz is liberating guilt and fear. When you get the solfeggio set, sometimes you get the solfeggio set in the 5, is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, in the 6 sets of numbers. And the 6 sets of numbers, the first 2 that we just read out isn't in there. So for us, it's the 5, and then the other 3 are like the 3 secret solfeggio numbers, which are your 963 hertz, 174, and 285. Haven't read out 963 yet, but the first 2 we just read out. Your 396 hertz is liberating guilt and fear. 528 hertz is your transformation and miracles and the universal love frequency. Some say this is the exact frequency used by genetic biochemists to aid broken DNA, the genetic blueprint upon what life is based. 639, connecting and relationships. 741 hertz, awakening intuition. 852 hertz, returning to spiritual order. And 963 hertz, at one with all. So that's taken us back to the fundamental wording of what yoga is. Yoga is the yoking, the union of the mind, body, and spirit from a Western translation of Sanskrit from a traditional perspective. So for us, what we've been doing, because we've been talking about the anchoring of the higher self through the heart frequencies, when we use all these tuning forks, we use all the tuning forks in a methodology that's the same that we use that you're told to use the Fibonacci set. So when you use the Fibonacci set, if you look up how you're meant to do it, which isn't how we've done it, our little ones inside don't do it like that to start with. They always need their own experience. But sometimes you need these experiences so that there isn't because the mind is fragile. So people need this structured routine way of doing things. But we're backwards to the majority. So, take accountability and responsibility for whatever it is you do for yourself. So for us, with the Fibonacci, the set way of doing the Fibonacci is that you've got the 1 over 1, your relationship of one whole part to another whole part. So you've got 2 parts, 1 and 1, but it's 1 to 1, and 1 to 1 is 1 divided by 1, which is 1. So you've got your whole 1 from the logical, linear, masculine, societal, conventional, current way that we live as humankind. But then that's your anchor point. So you use your 1 over 1 with all your different ratios. And of course, the Fibonacci sequence goes from your number that you're on is basically the addition of the previous 2 numbers. So it starts with 0. You've then got your 1 plus 0 is 1. And then you plus 1 onto that again, which is 1. 1 onto the 2 onto 1 and 1 is 2. So 2 and 1 is 3. 3 and 2 is 5. So your sequence in your Fibonacci is your 1 over 2, 2 over 3, which is half, 2 over 3, which is 2/3, 3 over 5, which is 3/8, 8 over 13, which I think is something to do with the ratio of the joints between the fingers in your body when you do fractal geometry, which will go into your Vitruvian Man of your Leonardo da Vinci in the artwork. And this is all the order within the chaos, the Fibonacci sequence, the patterning, the harmony that brings it all together. 8 over 13, 13 over 21, 21 over 13. We always relate 21 over 13 to the golden ratio, the 1.618. But all of the Fibonacci sequence, all of these fractions are pretty much 1.618, we think. And it's just some of them get closer to it. And I'm sure another one of us was checking up on the one of us that was saying that, and it turned out that that wasn't the case. But the ones of us that are speaking in this moment just have those two. We don't know, but we know that those think that and those think that. And so this is another layer of us having to check up on ourselves. So we use that same methodology and that same principle with the 528 hertz, the transformation and miracle and the universal love frequency on the 528 hertz of the Solfeggio set. And of course, we've got the 8 coming up here, we've got the 5 coming up here, and we've got the 2. So 528 was in our head, which brought us up from the 528 fork that we've used lots to be the anchor. We use this as the anchor point between when we do all of our tuning forks together. This is the one we do each tuning fork with for it to stay the same. Sometimes we don't, like with the Fibonacci sequence, we release this and we use the 1 as the anchor point, but this is the anchor point that brings in the 1, and this is the anchor point that then closes out with the 1 over 1. So the next round of tuning forks that came up for here were the 528, which is the middle one here, the middle one of length, the 285, which is the larger one. The larger they get and the smaller the number, the closer it gets to the density, the frequency of the physical body, and the 852. So what we're dealing with these here is returning to spiritual order, the 852, 528, the transformation of miracles and universal love frequency, and 285 used for wounds, physical, mental, emotional, and karmic. And it's specific, it's wounds and pain. So your wounds and your pain are different, which makes sense. You can have a wound, but your wound physically might not necessarily cause pain. So that does make sense. And that's the different layers and densities of stuff. Because I know for us, if we graze ourselves or skim ourselves, it's absolute agony. But if we get a deep cut going down a certain amount of layers of dermatitis, I don't think dermatitis layers, it barely hurts. And so yeah, they're the next. So they're the next tuning fork. So we've got the D sharp, the connecting. We've got those. Then it went on to the planets, which we didn't make any connections with. Then went on to the. So these are the. Yeah. So we've got the human organ tuners, and you've got our videos on our channels going right back to this, where we tune up our bath with these frequencies, we tune up the water, so we're drinking our shungite cleansed moon water and chakra crystal charged water, and that goes in the bath. So we're creating the same internal environment and the same external environment in hope that our internal environment, our subjective reality, our moon, our external environment, our objective reality, the sun, will come together so that the liminal space in between can sort out the chaos, and it will be cushioned between these harmonically aligned order within the chaos frequencies. And it's worked. It's worked. It's working. It's not just working, it's work, because we're getting our tangible results. We're creating planetary tuning forks. The sharps. And these are what we bought, treat ourselves and bought when we got a small inheritance right near the start after our seizures, I think. But again, timelines, would have to look up on that. And with the limited belief systems about being on benefits and it being bad and sponging off the system, even though we've done so much good, giving back, raising money for charities and doing good and all kinds of things, that was a big one for us. And so we were doing the videos and doing the card readings and doing tuning fork healings to give back to people and give healing frequencies out there. And our little ones made us, because our little one, when we won a TV when we were 12, actually, there's number 12, year harvest. And one of the things we used to do in the morning before school was watch Channel 1, Channel 3 and Channel 4 on the weather forecast to see if they all said the same thing, which they very rarely did. So there's the comparison thing going on. So this has been going on for us since 12, but we just didn't consciously know. And of course, we're tuning up the water that we're drinking. So therefore, the frequencies that are coming out of us through our urine and through our feces, our elimination, and going into the sewer system is raising that vibration. The water that goes down the plug hole system, which probably goes into the sewer system as well, is raising the vibration because we've tuned it all up. So we're doing our micro part, which then this brings us into homeopathy, where a small dose of a virus is what creates the vaccine for the virus. The small dose of the snake venom bite is what creates our parasympathetic nervous system's going again. There you go, beautiful. Is what creates the vaccine that cures you from a snake bite. It's a little bit of it. So actually it's less is more in this fundamental energetic quantum realms of dancing. And so we're putting these frequencies that are going back into the weather systems and then having an effect on everyone. And so it's not saying that we're from some of our little ones, they do feel that they've been the reason and the cause for certain things, be it good or bad. But we are able, and it's taken us a long time to have the courage to share that, because you get the people that suddenly say that they're Jesus Christ embodied. And it's like, we can completely understand where they're coming from when they say that. They're not the Jesus Christ embodied. We don't feel, we could be mistaken. Anything's possible. But it's coming from the current society we live in, is an emotionally immature society in the way we do things. And also the way we use our words and the way we express is limited. And so we can see behind the words of him saying that through the channeling of the energies and going into certain vibrational frequencies in certain dimensions and layers that creates that kind of feeling. And because our little ones get certain feelings like that, but it's our little ones aren't grown up properly. And in our little ones, we're in our child state ego, where we are the center of our narratives, we are the center of our story, and everything revolves around us. And so we've noticed that happen with us. But for us, we were never the center of attention or narratives of healing, but we've had to allow our little ones to feel like that now as our new healthy parent, our new healthy mother and father, to allow them to grow up so that we can find our sense of identity, of wholeness, that combines and hugs and brings all of our emotional bodies and states into play and doesn't kill some of them off like you hear some people saying. And then you've got your sacred solfeggio tuning sets. And we still have to have some others. It's not all of them. But then we went on to the body parts, and the numbers that came out in the body parts, we've got 352 hertz, which is an F, which was the heart from that one system we were talking about earlier. And that's your bladder. It's interesting that that's with the water system talk coming out. Intestines, which is 281 hertz, which is your C sharp. So we now have your C sharp and your D sharp. So that's interesting, actually. That means we're probably going to bring out something else that we're going to talk about in a minute. And we've got another C sharp, but this time, rather than it being 281 hertz C sharp, we've got 295.8 hertz of a C sharp. That bit we didn't know, we connect into earlier, but we looked at it. But obviously, the ones of us that were looking at it didn't have the neural networks to make comprehension of that, because we're only making comprehension of that in this moment. But with the D sharp that we came out with to start with the 300 hertz from the sharps set, was your C is your root chakra, your red. Your D is your second chakra, your sacral chakra. Our sacrum was torn on all three planes, and we've had real trouble with it. And your solar plexus is your third chakra, which is your E. So D sharp is between D and E. So we brought out, because D and E is kind of related to orange and yellow, we brought out our orange and yellow chakras. We don't have the chakra set anymore. We borrowed a set off someone, which was the chakra set, but we had to give them back. But our planetary tuning forks has 5 chakras of the 7 chakras. And moon is the sacral chakra. Oh, you can see it. We're thinking you can't see it. So you can see it in both ones there. Moon is the sacral chakra. Look at this, because we're doing 2 dimensions with 2 cameras now in 2 different ways, and we're managing it. That's why you want to do the top-down camera and this kind of setup, isn't it? Because our body has to being aligned with our mind for it to work. So we've got the yellow, which is the sun. So we've got the sun and the moon, and we were talking about that before. And of course, Aquarius is your humanitarian aid worker. Your humanitarian, it's the bringing everyone in together. But now what we're going to do, because we've just noticed that you've got 2 C sharps on your intestines and your fat cells, we're going to bring in the red, because your red is your C, your root chakra. And the red that we've got, we did the more. We can do that now because we've got them here, haven't we? Is earth. So now we have your red, orange and yellow, which links us back to your red grapefruit, your oranges and your lemons, your citrus fruit. And when we did our whole YouTube shorts of the citrus fruit and the royals in the tarot, and from Caroline Mice, we learned that all physical manifestations, from her perspective, all physical manifestations are what come from the bottom 3 chakras. Now they come from the bottom 3 chakras, but it's a symptom, it's a physical symptom, a physical manifestation from an imbalance in the upper chakras. That's, I don't know if she said that, but that's something that we're saying in this moment. We remember her saying this about those 3. So we have a YouTube short for our Joy to Coco on using the tuning forks to heal with the sound systems through our Fuma Healing Oracle cards, which were given to us for the day of today for Snowing Snowflake, which somehow we're going to put into a short that involves numbers, which hopefully now will flow through a lot clearer, because we've done this, which is already 3¼ hours, but hopefully that will flow through clearer. And then we will have created, the tuning forks will probably happen for a short tomorrow. Yesterday was a short with the Lavruma card 48 leaf shade. Today we will do the Lavruma card because we want to do a Lavruma card every day, but we'll bring in one more, which will be the sped up colouring in, which was inspired from one of the Lavruma cards on the colours, but has also got our creative juices flowing now to do other stuff. It's just the simple mechanism, the simple getting started, the simple getting the momentum from the inertia, which can be challenging. But in one of the lives we did the other day, which I think was the Joy to Coco, we did say about turning the Jupiter number 10 Fortune's wheel, the karmic wheel, the spinning vortex of energy with your baby finger, so that you're turning something really massive and really heavy and really stuck with something as little as that, which is like no one could pull out the sword out of the stone in that Welsh myth with the round table and the king, wherever myth that is, apart from the king that's meant to be, and then he'll just pull it out with ease. So it's that type of energies we're talking about. So then I suppose eventually a 4th short will come into play. I think that might be a tarot one. And we'll be continue, because the tarot brings together the numbers, the patterns, the astrology, the runes, so much. It depends which perspective and which globe, because you've got the Egyptian Thoth, haven't you, tarot, which is slightly different from the Rider-Waite, and we've got a book, the Egyptian tarot, and when you look into that, Rider-Waite isn't the original traditional. You've got multitude of ones that actually come before that in the history of the tarot in the front of the guidebook of the Egyptian tarot. But I think we've come to a close. We've come to a close. So I'm really chuffed we did that. We're still on length, but that's absolutely okay, because we're doing the process that we need to do. And this is going to be incredible and exciting to watch back. And now hopefully we'll continue, get our shorts done and get our shorts out there and continue connecting and integrating and harmonizing all of our sensory systems, all of our different bodies, all of our chakra energetics, and become more peaceful and okay. We're going to just leave on the green banner. We don't want to leave in sacral chakra energies. We want to leave in external heart grounded energies. Okay, we're exhausted. We're just gonna, and that's it, our peace, and we can bring ourselves back. We can remember. We're gonna get more and more at peace and calm with the fact that what we're doing with our 4 separate channels is exactly what we need to be doing for us, and will attract and support and help those that are drawn to it and come to it, which is just so not in the conventional way of having one niche per channel and doing it this way and that way. But that's amazing, because for us, with our abandonment issues, with our rejection issues, with our addictive qualities between some of us, that all intermingles and stems of all of that, you can get hooked on the amount of subscribers you've got or the amount of views you're getting. So we don't want to go into that in the conventional energetics. Our value-based systems, which is the fundamental foundational frequencies for all of this, are something that I feel have been with us a whole life, that we haven't, but that we consciously put into action from some of us into the physical, tangible world in 2012 when we started our Shintos Facebook page, which we now call our Shintosai Facebook page, but that we don't use at all anymore. So, and that 2012 is when you had that whole, the end of the world as we know it, or some people thought it was the end of the world because of the Mayan calendar and the waking up. And there's a massive catalyst of a global community wake up of individuals that have been growing since then, and that we're so grateful and honoured and lucky to have people like Greg Braden and Dr. Joe Dispenza and Nassim Haramein and Pam Gregory and Heather Ensworth and Braca Goldsmith, etc., all these amazing, Bruce Lipton, Genetics, and we love David Eagleman as well, because he goes on about your synesthesia and things. And so for us, it's been happening like that as well. It's just been happening in a very abstract, different, unique way, which for us is how it happens for people with multiple traumas and multiple layers on multiple depths that stem to childhood. And this is what we want to share, because the current stuff, like we say, that's coming out into the mainstream is going to be really harmful for these people, we feel. Yeah, and we all have to do our bit. And for us, it's doing our bit by putting ourselves into the main character of our story from a child state ego of empowerment and play, to include and involve everyone, which starts from the journey of involution inwards, because we can't change other people, we can only change ourselves. But in changing ourselves to the deepest depths through the central nervous system, into that center vacuum equilibrium, into the vortex, into the void where pure potential exists and pure creation stems from, we can change the fundamental energetics that others that aren't able to change are reacting to, which is the long-term gratification, and so important. And we think that's a beautiful ending. And I think we need to go and have a cry and a shake and pat ourselves on the back. So whoever this is watching, wow, thank you for sitting through this with us. I don't know what your energy is like, but well, we do know what your energy like, because we've flowed beautifully with this, and it's your energy that's coming in, and some people's energy that comes in can really set us agitated, and we've been able to flow beautifully. So we thank your energy for being here. And anyone else that comes to this in the future, to this now moment, which is your now moment, and it's all presence. That's why Eckhart Tolle's book did so well, of the power of now. He said was because he wouldn't write in it or do anything unless it was in the present moment. And this is Flow-mo, our flow state, momentary flow state, each flow state in the moment, because every now moment's a now moment. Nowness, isness, oneness. Namaste. And breathe. What a crazy, awesome, unexpected thing. Bye.